Hello, this is BSJ, and this is going to be my draft analysis video for the Dota 2 Singapore World Pro Invitational presented by PGL tournament. I am only doing the games at the main event that I paneled, as well as the ones I casted. The point being is that there is proof that I predicted these games live.
So I think if VP can set the pace way too early before they want to stop farming on the side of Navi, then VP is going to take it.
Yeah, but do you think they can do that, though?
I think they can. I'm going to believe in them.
I had a relatively high prediction percentage rate. I was 11 out of 12 for the games. And after the first day, the rest of the panel was pretty accurate as well. They had a really high percentage. And I think in this specific tournament, it was particularly easy to pick what team was going to win based on the draft. And I think this ranges. I've had tournaments where I go around 60%. And I've had tournaments like this where it's just really easy to predict the winner. And I think to the average viewer, it's not so easy. So I think the point of this video is to talk about more in depth about why I came to the conclusion that I came to and things to point out in the draft that oftentimes go overlooked. I'm going to be pointing out things that are either just meta picks, meta bans, and I'm also going to be pointing out why teams ban stuff, why they pick certain things and then ban certain things, and how certain tendencies you can look for in the drafts that help you understand what's going on. What I mean by that is sometimes teams will first round a carry hero that wouldn't otherwise be first rounded. And sometimes that first round carry hero is only enabled because they banned 2 heroes in the first round and then they banned 2 heroes in the second round that specifically make it hard to play that hero. Other times, you just see bans like Doom, where Doom's one of the most broken heroes in the tournament. So I'm going to quickly turn the announcer off so we don't have to hear the back and forth there. Disruptor, Doom, 2 of the most common heroes right now, as well as Razor. Towards the beginning of the tournament, teams are kind of just prioritizing banning signature heroes. So in the first round of bans, I generally don't look at them too much. The only time I look at first round bans is when I think something's abnormal. Like Beastmaster's a bit abnormal, and I don't think Virtus Pro plays it that well. But with this kind of pick, since I don't really understand why they banned it, other than maybe it's to target Virtus Pro, I don't look at it further unless I see something else in the draft that signals to me that they wanted to ban Beastmaster. I can't really explain exactly what I mean by that until I see an example of this occur in any of these drafts, but I'll make sure I recall this specific moment when I do see that. There's some times where I'm like, that ban makes no sense. So usually when something doesn't make sense to me when I'm watching a live game, what I do is I proceed to watch that person and see how it plays out and see why they did it, see if what they do in the game gives me some sort of explanation. If something doesn't make sense to me in the draft, I tend to watch the rest of the draft, keeping that in mind, like, why did they ban this hero? It doesn't always answer itself, just like when you're watching a live game, but I think it's really important that if you're getting to that point where you're on the verge of being able to analyze drafts for yourself, that you should question something that doesn't make sense to you and watch the rest of the draft with that question in mind, and it might be able to answer it for you. Okay, so going through the first round of bans, this is Navi versus Virtus Pro. PL is just a Virtus Pro pick. So that's why they banned it there. I also think they banned PL because it's very good against TA, and it's also very good against Tree. We are seeing teams that first rounded PL against TA or against Tree Viper. So I think the specific PL pick or the PL ban makes a bit more sense, not only because it's a Virtus Pro hero, but it's also good against what Navi planned to open. So immediately in this draft, I was giving the advantage to Virtus Pro. BSJ, why do you say that? I think Viper's really good against Tree in a support versus support matchup. If they were to put it as support, some teams did play Viper as support. Usually Tree can't really trade with you that well. So immediately in the side lanes, if they want to put Viper support, they can, and it'll be favored against the Tree lane. And then I also think Viper does a very good job against TA in lane. So oddly enough, in the mid lane. So oddly enough, I thought Navi just picked 2 heroes that were countered by the first pick of Virtus Pro. So in this draft, immediately I'm like, wow, I think Virtus Pro already has the advantage in this draft. I also think Venge is one of the most broken heroes in the game right now, and she benefits Viper very nicely for the repositioning as well as the extra range. So going in through the first round, I immediately like what Virtus Pro has. I like the Rubik ban against Viper specifically. You can steal his Nether Toxin or his ult. Both the abilities are quite strong to steal. It's a good support pairing with Tree. It's a really good kill combo once you have lift pros. Yeah, once you have level 2 on the supports, it's a really good kill combo. And I obviously know like Rubik's like a semi-meta hero right now. People are picking him enough to warrant it. Batrider is quite good against TA and Tree, if you're not aware. One of the best side lane picks against Tree. You do have to be aware of getting like slarked, so you don't just pick Batrider. But since first pick, it goes, this is the order of picks, right? First pick goes here, back to here. And then the second round, if you look at the pick order, it's boom, 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 boom. So first pick has 3 response picks in a row. They respond here, they respond here to here, and they respond here to here. So you have to be really careful when you're second team banning to have a hero that counters both of these heroes and limits the heroes you're going to pick second round. So what I mean by that is Batrider counters both of these heroes, and if they were to pick Morphling or some other carry that can't deal with Batrider, they would immediately just get gotcha'd on the 4th pick. So when you're second pick, it's really important that you don't get gotcha'd on the 4th pick. So usually what teams will do is they'll only ban heroes that counter these heroes if they're also concerned about it potentially countering these 2 heroes. More so on this side, you'll see the bans on first pick usually protect this hero that's picked because they were able to pick this and then ban 2 heroes. But sometimes you'll see it also protect their first pick hero, depending on whether or not it's a core. That's they're usually protecting their core pick. So a lot of times you'll see a second pick core, and then they'll protect it with these 2 bans. So usually these 2 bans will be protecting the core that is first rounded. So Rubik is good against Viper, as I said. Batrider is good against TA, as I said. So usually these bans are protecting the first round cores. I wouldn't say CM's particularly good against Viper. I think it might just be a Navi pick. I don't think CM serves any purpose here as a specific ban. It is a good kill combo with Tree, but that's about the only merit I see from the CM. Brewmaster, Virtus Pro as well, 33 for Alliance. They were doing Venge Brew. I think Venge Brew had a lot of synergy this tournament. I think Brew kept getting picked despite having Venge in the pool, or Venge banned, excuse me. And I thought Brew started getting overpicked. So the synergy between Venge Brew that I pointed out during the tournament is that Venge is like the best single target damage support in the game. What I mean by that is you don't want to pick any like magic immune single target core against Venge because she represents a ton of damage with her attributes given, as well as the range, a lot of physical damage. And then her Wave of Terror, she has a single target disable, and she has a single target displacement that's reliable. So she's really good against everything but illusion heroes. Like, except illusion heroes, she's really good. And I'd even argue the same thing for Viper. So the thing about Brewmaster is his ultimate gives him the AoE Purge that clears illusions as well as summons. And so I thought the combo of Venge Brew was really good because the combo in lane is really strong because the Wave of Terror procs his Drunken Haze or whatever it's called now, Cinder Brew. But also because all the heroes that counter Venge are also countered by Brew. So like the PLs, the Naga Sirens, the Terror Blades, all these heroes that counter Venge are countered by Brew. So they kind of protect each other. They're heroes that complement each other in regards to covering each other's weaknesses. So I really like the Brew Venge combo, and teams started banning it out, one of the other. I think it's more so that Venge is broken than Brew. But when certain heroes in the meta, like Venge, are broken, heroes that pair well with them naturally become better. And I think over the course of this tournament, teams were drafting Brew without the Venge, and they were losing. So I really think Brew was only good with the Venge. And you'll see later on in the drafts that ends up being the case. So I want to point this out that I thought Brew Venge was really strong, but Brew without Venge was not so strong. Which kind of tells you that Venge is the broken hero. Brew pairs well with her, but Brew on its own, not so good. Oh, I'm trying to fast forward, but it's not working. So immediately I didn't like this Lich pick. BSJ, why didn't you like this Lich pick? Lich only reduces the damage from auto attacks. It doesn't reduce physical damage in general. Viper's already a hero that's main source of auto attack damage is not his actual auto attack damage, it's his poison attack. On top of this, with their first 3 picks, Navi have 1 stun, which is Overgrowth, and it's not even a stun, it's a root. Yeah, you can say they have Sinister Gaze, but a channeling disable from a 5 position is just not very reliable. So in their first 3 picks, they have absolutely no playmaker, they have absolutely no mobility on the map, and they have absolutely no stuns. So I thought, unless this is like the perfect Lich game, this makes no sense to me. Originally, when I saw this lineup, I thought, okay, their idea is to turtle. Like, they have living armor on towers, they have living armor on Lich, or they have frost armor on Lich to put on towers. So it's going to be really hard for Virtus Pro to take towers. But at the same time, in this patch, I don't think turtling's really that good, because you have to be able to make plays. You have to be able to counter what the opponents are doing. If they're just avoiding you, then this type of lineup, in my opinion, is not very good. I think the idea behind this is that they protect the towers for their TA in order to farm the jungle. But TA is so bad against Viper in lane, he ends up making it worse. He dies like 3 times in the first 5 minutes. But TA is so bad against Viper in lane that you're not making space for anybody. Like, the TA is just going to get shafted. So why bother protecting your towers if your lane matchups are bad? If your lane matchups are like okay, and you outscale them, I think that this overall support duo could work. But since you have bad lane matchups already, I think it's already looking very poor for Navi in this draft. So Virtus Pro immediately doubles down on teamfight. I think at this point, their only problem was AoE. So Brew was banned out. Even Batrider's decent AoE. And they pair it with the Warlock. And so I'm like, okay, they have a lot of single target. They have a lot of teamfight. And suddenly they have AoE. AoE teamfight. They have playmakers. They have stuns from the Venge. Venge for me is almost enough stun. As long as there's no hero like a Puck that dodges the Venge stun. Like if Venge swap kills them, I think Venge is a very powerful disable. So not only did Navi not draft stuns of their own, but they also didn't counter the stuns of Virtus Pro. You have a projectile stun. Like, pick Puck. Pick Slark. You know, pick stuff that doesn't get stunned by Venge. But instead, they pick Lich Drow. Drow, an incredibly position-based, fragile hero, along with TA until she gets a blink. And you're just both against a Venge? Obviously, the TA is first rounded, so she's hard countered. You have Gyro with Rocket Barrage. You have Viper with all of his abilities countering TA. So no hero on Navi's lineup looks like it's going to have a good game to me. Like, I immediately start thinking, who's going to have a good game on Navi? Who's going to gank who? If I'm the Gyrocopter, as long as I don't get shit on in lane, don't I just free farm the jungle? Like, who stuns me? Who goes on me? Nobody. On the other hand, with Drow, if Venge +1's missing, I'm scared as fuck. And it's like, in terms of farming rate, that's a big impact on how fast I farm. Whether or not I'm scared to farm. And on Gyro, he's not scared of much at all. And on the other side, Drow is scared of the 5 position plus a core missing. How often in a game is a 5 position plus, I guess in this case the Venge is 4, excuse me, because of the Warlock. How often is the 4 position plus a core missing on the map? Pretty often. It's like, if Gyro's just jungling, but missing, Drow has to be scared as long as Venge is also missing. But Gyro could honestly have 4 heroes missing, and he could still feel safe jungling. And the only way he's going to die is if he get 4-man ganked, which is not a big deal. If you get like 4 or 5-man ganked as a carry in the jungle, whatever. If you're getting 2-man ganked as a Drow and dying, that's not good. So as I've been pointing out, I thought Navi was behind in this draft the entire way. Like, I thought this was a very easy draft prediction. I couldn't see a single point in this draft where I thought they were ahead. I thought Venge Tusk was a super broken combo. Just so much single target physical damage, and the gank combo is really strong, so that's why I liked this ban. Omni Knight, I would say really, excuse me, allowing these 2 heroes to become survivable was the only way for Navi's lineup to become enabled. But even then, I don't love the Omni Knight pick because they still have no playmaker. But I thought it could make sense to me by Virtus Pro's perspective that as long as Drow and TA are reliably killable, then we shouldn't have any issues winning this game. So I don't mind the Omni Knight ban. It kind of makes their lineup harder to play. But by no means do I think this would have been like a game-winning pick. So obviously we talked about positioning being super important in this game. They already have the Venge for the displacement, but now they don't only displace you, they also have a way to commit onto you. So if you look at these drafts so far, I'm thinking to myself, Navi, super passive, super position based. Virtus Pro, heavy team fight. I don't think there's any lineup that or any hero that Navi can pick here that beats this team in team fight. Warlock, Gyro, plus Centaur. With this lineup, you're not going to win team fights, period. TA, Drow do virtually nothing in team fights other than just damage, which is not enough compared to these heroes. And then on top of that, they have the gap close, the reliable way to force team fights on the Centaur. So they have team fights, they have superior team fight strength, they have a way to force fights, and they also have a way to gank you. So the map seems easier to play. Team fights, once they get them, are going to go their way, the side of Virtus Pro. And I think Navi's last pick has to address all of this. And that's a problem. Usually last picks can't address many things. They can only address like certain parts of the game. So I'm thinking to myself, they have to get a ganker that helps them win team fights. And I don't think that hero exists in the game. I don't think that he exists. They go for the team fight approach, but what you're basically going to watch is Virtus Pro in this game play the map however they want. If they want to fight, they take fights. If they don't want to fight, they don't fight. It's that simple. You may see like BSJ, why don't you just not fight when you don't want to fight ever? How does Navi's lineup force you to fight? Like, if you're behind on Navi, how do you force the opponent to fight you? Who's your initiator? Who starts it? What's your follow-up? I'm going to go Overgrowth into Root. It's like, once they have a Manta or a BKB, how do I kill these guys? Pure damage from TA as well as Drow. It's like, yeah, you have damage, but these heroes need to be kiting to do damage. And you have like Warlock, Viper, Centaur. You're not going to win the Viper versus TA lane. Like, the TA is not going to win. Gyrocopter's not a bad laner against Underlord. They're going to win at least 2 out of 3 lanes here on the side of Virtus Pro. And then you don't win team fights. So I look at this draft and I give it a heavy favor to Virtus Pro throughout the entire course of the draft. Some of them are not this black and white. Like, some of them I think like maybe in the last pick they gained the advantage. But I thought from the very get-go, Navi put themselves in a terrible spot, picking TA Tree into Viper. The only advantage I think that second pick has is they can own the first pick. Like, whatever the enemy team first picks, they can absolutely counter the shit out of it. And they also have absolute last pick. Those are the 2 strengths of second pick. So I think if you don't have a really strong last pick and you don't counter the shit out of their first pick, second pick usually loses the draft. And that's immediately what I saw in this draft.
Navi's very stationary, and they don't really have active heroes in the early game. Underlord, TA, Drow all want to get their own farm. So I think if VP can set the pace way too early before they want to stop farming on the side of Navi, then VP is going to take it.
Yeah, but do you think they can do that, though?
I think they can. I'm going to believe in them here.
All right, VP for BSJ. What do you think, Tobes?
Navi, call it here as Virtus Pro a dominant victory. 43 minutes, yes, but you felt every single minute of that 43-minute game, man. You were like, when is this going to end? VP just non-stop had a chokehold on Navi.
So moving on to the next game. Probably going to make these next few shorter. Like that, it's going to get shorter as we go along through draft analysis because there's going to be overlapping points that rather than explaining them, I'm just going to say them. Like, yeah, this is the same thing as before. So this is game 2. Virtus Pro did win the first game. This time around, Virtus Pro bans out the Viper and the TA when they have the enemy team has first pick. So Virtus Pro respects the Viper first pick. They also respect the TA if Viper's not in the pool. They don't want the enemy team to pick Viper and then have them be forced to pick TA because they're not going to do that. And they also ban the Tree because even though Tree didn't look that great last game, I think that it didn't look that great because of the Viper in the first round, representing a lane counter in the side lanes, which gave them multiple options. So pretty much similar bans as last game, but this time around we saw these 2 heroes banned and then the Venge banned, which left Doom open. I think Doom and Venge were the 2 best heroes this tournament. Doom, Venge, and Puck. Definitely those were the top 3. In what specific order, I don't particularly care. Puck became more popular over the course of the tournament because teams were catching on to building like this physical damage, phase shift attack talent Puck. I really want to clarify that the way teams view meta heroes is really important. And when watching this draft analysis video, even if you're watching it 6 months from now, understanding that when it comes to meta heroes, you just have to counter them. And that's what makes them meta. If you put 10 heroes in the game, none of which are countered, the ones that are the most meta are going to win. But if there's a meta hero in the game and it gets countered, by non-meta heroes sometimes, that's good enough. The reason why I say that, it seems so obvious, is because if you're in a new meta, you need to learn, you need to watch drafts to understand what teams are doing to counter the most meta heroes in the game. And we're going to see this become more and more popular over the course of this event that I'm currently analyzing with you guys, that I think the teams that counter the meta heroes the best oftentimes won the draft. So immediately, they pick Doom on Navi. Doom flex picks as a 4 or 3. We've maybe seen like 1 or 2 5s, but it's a flex pick. Either way, it's a side laner. So immediately, Virtus Pro picks a support in the Undying that counters Doom in a lane. And they're just going to put the Undying in that lane. Doom can't contest that lane, period. Like, you can't contest it. So immediately, they're shutting down whatever lane Doom's going to be in. Doesn't matter if he's support, doesn't matter if he's core. Undying's going to follow him. You countered his laning stage. Now, they say, well, what's the power of Doom? Making it so heroes that need to cast abilities can't cast abilities. Guess what? Medusa, after she pushes R and runs into the middle of the fight, does not need to cast abilities. So even if Medusa seems like a really weird first pick, VP's done it earlier on in the earlier on in the tournament, and they've countered your Doom and now are forcing you to deal with the Medusa in some other way. Maybe it's not perfect, and maybe they're not going to win the draft purely on this, but this, compared to last game, if you see the sharp contrast between what Navi did to the first pick last game and what VP did the first pick this game, I think it's drastically different. So right now, I'm like, okay, in the draft, Doom, good hero. Undying Medusa, counter it in lane and in game. So now Navi need to come up with some other way to win the lanes as well as win the game. So you're putting the ball in their court in order to force them to respond to your picks. I feel like the Viper was good enough against Tree TA last game, which meant that Virtus Pro could just pick whatever the hell they wanted to. That was good for the draft they wanted to play. But now Navi has to pick from a pool of heroes that they can play, and it has to address the laning stage and the mid to late game. So there's a lot more boxes for them to check with this next pick. And sometimes you can do that, which in this case I think is really good. Razor, one of the few side lane cores that can actually lane against Undying in a meaningful way. And he also counters Medusa in the mid to late game because you link her. So even now, if she does get doomed and linked, she's not useful anymore. So I do like this pick. I think it does address both of these heroes. So right now in the draft, I'm like, okay. Like, I think both teams have a legit shot here. I think it's pretty even for the reasons I've already stated. Timbersaw was proved to be a huge nuisance in this tournament. The whole idea of Medusa is that you hold the line, you make sure they don't pressure your tier 1s, and you get farm. And the Medusa kind of participates in fights when she wants to. She doesn't want heroes being played up in her face in the early game. And Timbersaw was one of the best heroes this whole tournament to just kind of put that ridiculous early game pressure on. And I really like this Timbersaw ban. There's just like too much health to chew through, I think, in the mid game as well if you give them Doom, Razor, Timbersaw. So I do like this ban. On the other hand, you ban Quap, which is really good against the Razor mid. One of the few heroes that can lane against Razor mid, and it's not even guaranteed to win. I've seen Razors beat Queen of Pains, but Queen of Pains also really hard to doom, so it's like a nice hero to pair against either of these, as well as they need active heroes. If you look at Virtus Pro's lineup, they don't have active heroes. So banning out a hero that's not only good against your two heroes, but is also good for the opponent's lineup, I'm happy with that ban. Centaur is one of the most common Doom counters. What better Doom counter than a hero that can save the hero getting doomed globally? So you doom somebody, the only counter to Doom is by running away, and Doom not being able to lock you down. So Centaur was picked a lot this tournament in response to Doom because you just push Centaur ultimate as a response to when you get doomed, or when your teammates get doomed. It's also decent against the static link, right, for his teammates. And this ban is usually really important for... This ban right here is usually really important for this team because these are the avoiding the gotcha picks, as we talked about. I don't think Brewmaster was very good for their laning stage on Navi, but I think Brewmaster is really good against Medusa in the mid game. It represents the same thing as Timbersaw, where it's going to like dive you early, and also the best way to deal with Medusa in the early to mid game is just ignore her in fights. And Brewmaster is really good against single cores that you just want to ignore because you just throw them up in the air with your ultimate. And Brewmaster overall is just a very run-at-you Dota hero, and Medusa just doesn't want to deal with that. So immediately Virtus Pro addresses their catch problem. So Disruptor is probably the single best catch support in the game. He's not pick off alone. He needs help, right? But in terms of forcing fights, what better support is there when the opponent is running and you can glimpse them back from 1800 range? I can't think of a better support in the game to force fights with sheer range of catch. So I think that this is a great pick for their own lineup, and it's also nice against Razor Doom, two heroes that rely on running really fast and their mobility, just running though. So you're going to be able to reliably Thunderstrike them, and then you're going to capitalize and punish on their sheer running by glimpsing them back. They're not like Quaps and Pucks and stuff that have mobility spells that can maybe get away from you or dodge your spells. They're going to get glimpsed. They're going to be locked down by your kinetic field, and you don't even have to ulti them all the time. Your ult is not necessary to be very powerful against the two heroes you see here. Immediately Lich made no sense to me again. I really don't understand why Navi picked this. It's nice for Doom and Razor to be able to go in. You like frost armor them and enables them to be tankier and run in. But it doesn't solve their problems. This hero solves their hero's problems. It gives you some catch, gives you some ability to force fights on your own terms. No stun. No stun. Low range stun that's a channel. Like, what about this addresses your teammates' issues? Like, this needs to be like a shaman or, you know, something that stuns, a Rubik. You know, this can't be a Lich. I don't understand why Navi's giving themselves no stuns this draft. It really confused me in both games. I said after the first game, I'm like, I want to see Navi have some playmakers and some stuns. And they're going to do it, and they're going to win the second game. That was what I said. And then after the draft, I was like, they didn't pick any stuns. They're not going to win this game. So immediately, you have team fight. We saw teams pick Doom Puck because the best counter to Doom is to run away. Another counter to Medusa is just to avoid her. And Puck is like the perfect hero of this patch. I said one of the top 3 heroes. Can't believe I made it this far in the draft. One of the top 3 heroes for forcing fights once you've casted spells on somebody. Coil is so scary. Really, the only counter to Coil is Strong Dispels or Wyvern. Those are my 2 hard counters, and I'll talk about Wyvern more a bit later. But you have to be able to like remove the Coil stun later on in the game, or you have to be able to tank through the Coil. And in this case, since they have Medusa, they'll be able to force fights on their terms. It also gives them a hero that plays alone. It allows the Medusa to be made space for early, and then it allows for the rest of the team to play together as 4 while the Puck split pushes. So it's really good for their game plan as well as their early lanes. And also, guess what? Navi has no freaking stuns. So you just picked a hero that they have to stun. Like, if you don't stun Puck, how easy is it to play Dota? After this draft was over, I predicted that like the Puck was just going to run over this game. I saw that they Doom Razored, and I said Virtus Pro has to pick a hero that has equal impact in this game as a Medusa. Yeah, the Medusa's your carry, but you have to have a hero that carries you to the point where Medusa's going to carry you. And in this case, Puck against no stuns is like a perfect example. So against these type of heroes, just pick mobility. Just force them to stun you. And like, there's only a few heroes in the pool that actually stun. So if they don't pick like a Rubik here, like if they make this Doom support, suddenly they have no stuns. So you're like limiting what this Doom can be. And if they make it a support, then they just have no stuns in their supports, and you have a Puck that's going to free reign the map. Once again, Navi goes for this Drow strat with no stuns against heroes that need to be stunned. Yeah, I get the idea. You want long range against the Medusa. It's like long range damage output. Medusa never builds armor items. I get what they're going for. It's like so simplistic of a counter, but it's not actually good for their game plan. Like what? Like who makes moves? Who does shit on this team? It was the same stuff in the first game. I really didn't understand it. I'm flaming it because they did it twice in a row. And look, they just ban a playmaker. That's going to apply a lot of pressure in the laning stage. They don't really have a way to deal with Batrider in the early stages. And Navi bans the cheese pick. They don't have any AoE. And they go for another non-stunner. And I'm like, wow, this Puck's going to have absolute free reign. No one ends up getting a ultra kill at like 9 minutes into the game because you just have no stuns and he can do whatever the hell he wants. In the first game, he won his lane. He was playing like behind tier 2s at 9 minutes. This game, he gets an ultra kill at 9 minutes. And on the other hand, all they need is to survive the damage of Navi. So what do? Like, look at Navi's lineup. They've already answered it with mobility as well as the ability to force fights. So the only thing they need to do is mitigate damage because that's what Navi represented to this Medusa. A lot of damage from the Razor, a lot of damage from the Drow. Boom, damage mitigation. Team fight building, aura builder. And it's also really good in laning its Omni Knight. So it makes it so the enemy team doesn't want to tri-lane your Medusa. So the best way to secure that your carry doesn't get tri-laned is by having a superior 1v1 in the other lane. If you don't know the matchup, you just have to play it. Underlord shits on Omni Knight 1v1. So if they gave Underlord a 1v1 and pressured the Medusa with the tri-lane, suddenly you're feeling pretty good anyways. So that basically makes it so VP is going to get a good start on the Medusa because they don't want to tri-lane on Navi. And then because they're getting a good start on Medusa, and Puck should do absolutely fine mid, they're just going to have enough time in this game to get to the point that I said they were going to get to. They have superior teamfight forcing. They have no counter to the Underlord ulting out, which is another save to the Razor Doom. I basically said if Navi doesn't win the fight in the first 8 seconds with a full static link and a Doom, they're not going to win the game. And you're against a Medusa Underlord, which is super freaking tanky, and you're against a Puck who doesn't get disabled by you. And just, how do you win the fight in the first 8 seconds? You don't, with the lineup you have. And if you don't win in the first 8 seconds, I think you lose the fight. So in this game, I'm like, I don't think Navi can win fights. They don't have playmakers. They don't have stuns. Boom, I picked VP to win it, and they do.
Yeah, this isn't nearly as bad in the matchup mid. I don't really, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of either draft. Very light on stuns. Kind of weird picks, I think, overall, the Medusa first round. But I'm going to go with VP after the first game. I think they look better. And I thought Navi was going to solve their problems for the first game by drafting some stuns, and then they just drafted no stuns. So.
Navi on their way out the door. Virtus Pro are going to kick them out the door as they 2-0 in just very controlled fashion.
If you want to see my explanation of the draft come into play, come into fruition, just watch the games, right? That's the best way to kind of see what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go through the replay itself to show you what I saw in the draft. The point is, a lot of the draft, you can see what's going to happen in the game based on what you see in the draft. This draft was, this particular series was interesting, the one coming up here, TNC versus Vici. Vici's on top. I know my ad is blocking it. The reason why I say this one was interesting was because out of all the series, it was really funny. The panel was unanimous on one team, and I chose the other team. And I was really confused because the rest of the tournament, our views aligned. It was really strange. But for this particular series, the panel and I disagreed on every single game. They were and I'm like, I hate to be devil's advocate here, but I disagree. It's a really weird series. So TNC versus Vici. This was the beginning of Vici's lower bracket run to win the tournament, if no spoilers. Chiappa. TA was becoming more and more popular throughout the course of the tournament. ET was a Vici gaming staple. Most of these bans are just targeted either at meta heroes like Venge or they're just targeted at the specific team you're playing against. We're going to see a lot of picks repeat themselves. I really like Tiny against Doom in the laning stage, especially because you represent the kill threat on him. The major thing for me here was that Tiny can be flex picked, but most oftentimes people were just leaving it as a 4. And it gave them a playmaker with the Lich. I don't like Lich that much this tournament. I don't know why teams kept picking it. But at least this game, it wasn't like Lich Tree. It was Lich Tiny. I would have much rather seen a support that kind of kills better with Tiny, though. I wouldn't name Lich to be like a good dual roam or whatever combo with this Tiny. So a bit peculiar to me. But then their main source of damage mitigation on Vici is the Frost Armor from Lich and the armor on Tiny that he gets from his ultimate. So what do you do? You pick Venomancer because that's a staple hero for TNC. KP loves playing it, and it's a hero that forces them to pick heroes to address it. Neither of these two heroes naturally deals with the damage of Veno, and neither of them naturally kills Veno. So you're forcing your team to pick a pipe builder, and you're also forcing your team to pick something that kills Veno. So that's what I like a lot about Veno. Veno deals poorly with gap closers that don't rely on blinks. Storm Spirit, Anti-Mage, Faceless Void, Slark, these types of heroes. Invis heroes especially because they can get past the wards. But those are the type of heroes that deal with Venomancer, so you're forcing them to pick these types of heroes. PL's another example. So they're going to go ahead and ban out heroes that protect this pick, as I talked about earlier. And then Vici, let's see what they ban. I don't particularly remember this one. They banned the Morphling. So these are two heroes that have nice kill combo early. I said their combo's not that great, but both of them can kill people with slows. So picking heroes that can just get out of the tiny toss into tower. I'd say their main way of killing somebody is like a slow from Lich into toss and morphling right away. That's not happening. You're just not doing that to kill a morphling. So I think that this is like enabling their early game laning stage to get rid of the morphling. It's also like a popular meta hero this patch. Terrorblade's really nice against Veno for several reasons. First off, you're an illusion hero that reliably kills the Veno wards. Second off, when you reflect the Veno, you get his poison sting. So in lane, I saw Terrorblades going 2-0-2 against the Veno, and it was actually laning really well. And so Terrorblade, who usually has a rough lane, actually lanes really well against the Venomancer. So I really like the Terrorblade ban there, even though I don't particularly see it very often. It's also pretty good against Doom, one of the heroes that like you push meta, you push reflection, you push illusion, and then he dooms you, and it's like whatever, you're still hitting for a bajillion damage. So one of the heroes that doesn't really mind getting doomed. SF, I don't particularly understand that ban other than just being afraid of TNC specifically playing the SF. So Centaur, we said against Doom, right? It's even better this game because it is against Venomancer, who's only slows as well. You cannot slow during the Centaur Stampede. So what I saw teams doing when they had Doom was that if the opponent picked something like Centaur, they had to address it immediately in regards to, if I Doom them and they get Stampeded, then what? I have to have something that counters the Stampede to enable my Doombringer's Doom to actually mean something. If they don't pick an instant disable, then the Doom for the rest of the game is going to be useless, because every time he Dooms, they're just going to Stampede. So immediately, this allows them to prevent the disengage from Vici. Also, it allows you to Wyvern Curse into Doom. That's something we saw pretty common. So this counters a lot of heroes in the game. They don't want to pick the Pucks of the world. They don't want to pick the Slarks. Guess what? That hero is just going to get Wyvern's Curse, which is an instant disable from like 1,000 range, into Doom. Like, you're just going to get Wyvern Cursed into Doom. So they can't pick a solo core, which is what they're going to have, because look at their draft. So you're countering a solo core super hard. Wyvern Doom was a very popular combination. And then it's also nice in lane against Centaur if you end up doing it, because of the percent HP removal of Wyvern's Arctic Burn. So if you compare this to other heroes that you might pick to counter Centaur in this particular case, Wyvern makes a lot of sense. You need a support at this stage, because you potentially drafted 2 cores. It enables your Doom, and it counters the Centaur. So overall, very good pick of Wyvern here. I thought this was very strong. A lot of times when I'm looking at drafts, I think this is overall conceptually what this team needs to do with this pick. And if they do it, I'm not always thinking perfectly what the pick's going to be. But if they do it, I'm like, wow, that's a nice hero. That does it really well. Maybe even better than the heroes I was thinking of. Gyrocopter, it's nice and all against Wyvern because you represent damage that goes through the Cold Embrace. And you're also a hero that doesn't kill your teammates if you get cursed. But I wouldn't even say it's particularly good against Doom or Veno. He does rely on pressing spells, so if they just Doom him, it's like, okay, like what now? And then also, Veno is really good against heroes with no innate sustain. So until Gyro Satanic, Veno's going to have a good game. But I do think Gyro was like an overall okay pick, but nothing like, wow, coming out from me for that pick. Also makes the Morphling ban make a bit more sense, because Gyro is really bad against Morphling because you just turn into him and get the flak. So this is an even more so enabler of the Doom, right? Now you don't even need the Wyvern's Curse if the Kunkka's there. If you Doom them and X them and then they get Centaur ulti, they're still dying because they're just getting X'd in Torrent. So I really liked this pick. This enabled their team fight a lot. It made them super tanky against the AoE. There's a lot of AoE, but no burst damage. No burst damage, other than Tiny's combo, which is a support, clearly, at this stage. So suddenly you're making it so your team doesn't die. And the number one thing I highlighted in this draft during the tournament was that Veno takes really long fights. Veno wins long fights. If you get Poison Nova off and you're hitting people with Poison Sting, you win long fights, period. You want to watch this game play out? I don't care if you have a freaking pipe. You're going to lose long fights to Veno. So suddenly, what I thought was so good about this Kunkka pick was not only does it enable his lineup, but now how in the world with Kunkka Wyvern does this team end the fight in the first 15 seconds? How does the fight last less than 15 seconds? Please tell me. How do you kill them during the boat buff with this lineup? You don't. Like, you're never killing Kunkka full to 0 with this lineup, and you're never going to kill his teammates as long as he gets boat off. And they also have Cold Embrace, and they have super tanky cores. Venomancer naturally builds tanky. Doom's naturally tanky. So how do you end the fights in the first 15 seconds? And with that in mind, if you can't end in the first 15 seconds, how do you win team fights against Veno? And my entire decision on this draft was based on the fact that I don't think they can win fights in the first 15 seconds. And TNC wins fights past 15 seconds. That's what I thought with the Venomancer. So they banned Slark, which I almost think was even better for them than it was for TNC, because that's one of the few heroes in the game that really capitalizes on long fights, especially against Veno with the sustain. Razor, I think, would have just caused them too many issues in the laning stage. All 3 cores and mid game, heavily in the mid game too. All 3 of these cores super hard countered by Razor in the early to mid game. So I think Razor was just a good enabler to be like, we're not going to get cheesed out of this game. We're not going to get ran over in the first 20 minutes of the game. I thought Lifestealer was super strong here. Who kills Lifestealer? Oh, nobody does. Sorry, I was waiting for a chat to answer there. Yeah, nobody kills Lifestealer on this lineup. So now you have to pick something that deals with boat, bursts the Kunkka, does damage through Cold Embrace because Gyro Q is not going to be enough, kills the Lifestealer. There's just too much to answer on TNC's side. So I thought to myself, as long as this game goes to 20-30 minutes where the team fights are going to last long enough, I can't imagine how TNC loses. And a lot of people don't realize current Lifestealer scales way better than old Lifestealer. The old Lifestealer was better in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game. Current Lifestealer scales way better because of the way Infest works nowadays. And you also have a lower base attack time, and you also have natural attack speed that's all the time constantly up. So new Lifestealer scales way better, and as long as you get past the early game, he's good. And this is exactly what I thought here. They go for the Storm Spirit. So I thought Storm Spirit, in theory, really nice against Wyvern, really nice against Veno. It goes onto the back lines, doesn't mind Veno wards, etc., etc. But in my mind, I'm like, where is the damage? One of the biggest issues Storm Spirit has as a hero is running out of damage. That's really all it is. If the enemy team can just make it so you ball on top of them, and who gives a fuck that you ball lightning on top of me? I don't care. Eventually, you have to reach that point. And TNC ends up reaching that point. I predicted TNC to win this game. And if you watch this game play out, you will understand what I mean about the long team fights and how they benefited TNC.
Let's get this best of 3 underway. VG versus TNC. TNC with a little bit to prove. Same for VG Gaming, because they proved it at the major.
Yeah, we got first place versus second place.
Yeah.
From the last major. Who would have thought we'd see them both in the lower bracket? But both of them have been looking a little bit shaky. Maybe they took a break after the major, happy with their results. You never really know exactly what goes wrong. But yeah. I'm slightly in disagreement with the panel about the result of this game.
Well, that's good, because normally every time we cast a game and we have this panel, they're always wrong.
Yeah, it's really easy to just say, okay, whatever they picked, what's the reason the other team is going to win? And I'm really favoring the fact that I think it's going to be hard for Vici to do enough damage to bring down TNC's cores.
Go down, that's GG. TNC, the last one they've got left to kill off is Ari. VG went YOLO.
Somebody asked when's a good time to pick Lifestealer in the new patch. It basically just has to come down to the laning stage. You have to have a clear-cut laning stage, and you can't be reliably killed by physical damage. So heroes like in the draft are like Ursa's, Vengeful Spirits, even like Viper's super annoying, TA's super annoying. I think the only thing limiting Lifestealer right now is that he's bad against a lot of heroes that are good. I don't know any other way to describe it. But with a lot of these good heroes out of the pool, like we saw last game, Lifestealer I think is super powerful. He's a hero that if like the most meta heroes get nerfed, I think he would be really good. But we'll find out. So going on, game 2, TNC versus Vici. Similar bans in the first round. Fast forwarding through those, we got rid of the Doom this time. Tiny once again highly prioritized, and they immediately go for the Venge Veno. A similar counter coming out here. In the laning stage, Venge is just super broken in general, but she's really nice against Tiny because he has 0 armor. And in the late game or mid game, Tiny's toss to displace his teammates gets countered by the swap. So you deal with him pretty well in the laning stage, and then you also deal with his initiation later on. So super nice, like, conceptual counter, Venge versus Tiny. And then we saw Venomancer last game against Tiny. It's just nice. There's really no better way to describe it. It's nice in lane against you because you harass him down. He has 0 armor, but it's also nice because he wants to buy a blink in order to close the gap, and he's just not able to do that. They're not going to make it core. They're never going to play core Tiny against Venomancer. So you force it as a support, and then you also made it so that the support blink is really not that powerful. Immediately respond to the PL. PL very good against both Venge and Veno. Venge is super single target. Veno, you can duplicate your PL ult on the wards. So in the mid game, he's one of the few heroes that conveniently clears Veno wards. Also, you can doppelganger the Gale in the laning stage. You can doppelganger the Venge stun in the laning stage. And also, it's almost impossible to swap you at any point. So PL scales well against these heroes, and he's also very nice against them in the laning stage. It's one of those heroes that's going to get banned in the second round if you don't pick it now. So they have to make the choice between, is it good enough to pick now? Can we protect it with bans? So like I said, you have to be able to protect this hero from the first round now. And the issue that I have is that like TA, Tree, Viper, all these popular heroes that are actually bad against PL are already banned out. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of heroes in the pool left that are still good against PL. I would think this pick would go up way in value if one of those early first bans was a Timbersaw or, you know, a Storm Spirit. These types of heroes that are good, like, or even like a Kunkka, so you don't have to waste the second round ban on it. I'm not saying you should first round ban Kunkka, but a lot of times when I saw cores get first rounded like this, one or two of their first round bans really protected it. It made it better. But in this case, it doesn't. So it makes me a bit nervous that there's just too many heroes that are good against PL left in the pool. That was something I immediately thought. So they immediately banned Kunkka, which I think is good. They saw the power of Kunkka Veno last game on their own team. Like, they know the power of it. Long fights, the sustain, very strong. And it's also very good with the cleave against PL. With PL, you want to make it so he just can't fight mid-game. And he can't fight for a really long time. You don't want him to be able to bully your cores when he's farming, and you don't want him to be able to fight. You just want enough AoE shit on the ground that he can't fight into it. That's how you kill. That's how you deal with PL. And you're going to see that coming into the draft here. They banned the Legion. Honestly, I don't like that ban at all, so I'm not really going to comment much further on it. I don't think it's a good hero here. Brewmaster, really hard counter in the off lane to the PL. It dives him. It lanes decently against him. And the overall team fight is just, it makes it impossible for PL to participate until like at least 20 minutes into the game. Like, you cannot fight into a Brewmaster ult as a PL if you've ever played that matchup. So it kind of synergizes with what I said. A lot of AoE mid-game damage to stop the PL from doing that. Batrider, even though they have the Venge swap to save, they would be potentially dealing with some serious lane issues, and the only thing they need to do is prevent this PL from having free farm. You want to be able to pressure it while making it not be able to fight. Right, that's the goal. So already, I don't mind playing PL and Earthshaker, I'm going to be honest with you. But if you make it so I can't fight into this Earthshaker in the first like 25 minutes of the game because you have so much mid-game damage, I'm suddenly scared of Earthshaker. Also, Core Shaker I think is way better against PL than Support Shaker. I think they end up making this core. But more notably, this is just step one for Vici to address this PL. I don't think one hero is enough. Their two first heroes are hard countered by PL, and they've also revealed their win condition. Like, PL is your carry. He's always going to be your carry. So what I like about Vici's draft that comes out here is they just start picking everything that's good against PL. Like, they pick the best hero based on the remaining heroes of TNC and what they need for their lineup that's good against PL. They just pick everything that's good against PL. Another freaking Lich, man. What's Lich good here for, guys? Magic damage, displacement. Please tell me. Reveals the real PL when he puts it on. I actually didn't understand Lich in these games. I'm like, are these teams just throwing? Why the hell is everyone picking Lich? He's 0-3 so far. Stop picking Lich. I was very confused. It was different teams, too. It was so strange. Morphling. So Morphling's really not that great against PL. It's okay, but a lot of teams pick PL into Morphling rather than the other way around. But at this point, you have Lich Tiny, which last game we saw the team that picked Lich Tiny banned Morphling. Why? Because the kill combo doesn't at all pressure the Morphling for like the first 20 minutes of the game. They don't do shit to Morphling ever. Yeah, maybe Tiny can catch you in the mid game when he gets a blink and burst you down, like we did see that a couple times this tournament. But in the laning stage, you are not getting pressured on this Morphling, period, with what you see. There's no offlaner that they can pick that enables Lich Tiny to pressure you as a Morphling. So guess what? Even if it's not the best matchup against PL, they have fourth pick to carry that's going to have a good start. So when you compare the start of this PL to the start of this Morphling, I much prefer to play the Morphling so far in this draft. I can't think of anything TNC will pick that makes this Morphling have a bad start. So they do go for the puck, which is really nice because Vici Gaming has no immediate stuns until the Blink Earthshaker. And they also have heroes that rely on the roots, or relies on their mobility that's countered by the leash, the Morphling and the Shaker when he gets Ags. But most notably, the Venge swap also staps them. So like there's no save that's super good, and it's also burst damage that can potentially catch the Morphling out of position. But it's not the perfect pick for me, because once Earthshaker does get Blink, it's going to be hard to play Puck this game. There's no item that Puck can play to dodge Blink Echo Slam. Like, you just can't. If you get fissured from Fog and a Blink Echo Slam, you're going to die as Puck. And having one hero on the enemy team represent kill threat against you makes it much scarier to play this hero. So with Omni Knight, Legion, and Abaddon banned out, there's no save against this Earthshaker combo. These bans, I saw this Legion didn't really make sense to me, but now that I see it play out that they wanted to pick Shaker, it makes more sense now, right? Because they want Blink Echo to be a trump card. They want this to be, if we Blink Echo this guy, he's going to freaking die. And that's exactly what's happening if you look at this lineup, right? Against the PL, against the Puck, if you get Blink Echoed, there is no save. There's nothing that's going to happen. You are just going to die. And with the heroes that have been banned out so far, a lot of counter initiation, even like Batrider getting banned out, it's nice counter initiation. All the saves are gone. So they banned DK, just a really nice lane counter to Puck, can go side lane or mid lane, just follow the Puck around, really good lane counter. Also gives them an instant disable against the Puck. And they pick Beastmaster. I was not a fan of Beastmaster this tournament. I thought Beastmaster was a dog shit hero when I saw him in the group stage, and I'm going to tell you why. Every game I watched him, he got like 2v1'd or 3v2'd and lost. And that happens every single time you play Beastmaster. What about Beastmaster's kit makes him strong against more heroes than himself? And he doesn't want to tri-lane. So now I think to myself, how do you just ruin this Beastmaster's game? Is this Beastmaster going to be able to lane into a tri-lane? No. So what does Vici Gaming have to do to make it so this Beastmaster can't play Dota? Just pick a hero that shits on him 1v1. Then what? What's his lane? Where does he go? If he can't be, like, if you pick a hero that shits on him 1v1, you put that hero safe lane, and you aggro try. If they put the Beastmaster against the 1v1, he's going to get shafted. If you put him against the tri lane, he's going to get shafted. And this is their last pick, Beastmaster. Boom. Ouch. This draft's fucking over. I actually thought, like, I couldn't believe the panel I'm not trying to shit on the panel. The panel predicted that TNC was going to win this game. I could not believe that they thought this last pick Timber was going to lose. You only think this Timber's going to lose if you have never played PL into Timbersaw. Have any of you in chat played PL into Timbersaw? That shit is garbage until like 30 minutes into the game. And even then, you don't kill him. He just doesn't kill you. That's like the only difference. But you have a laning stage where Morphling's not going to get pressured for all the reasons we already talked about. Your mid laner is going to do absolutely fine. And now you have a Timbersaw against Beastmaster PL. Please tell me how they kill this Timbersaw, guys. Please tell me. So suddenly you have this PL that can't team fight for all the reasons we talked about, and he can't farm against Earthshaker in lane. As long as Earthshaker has Echo, PL can't farm that lane. If Timbersaw's in that lane, can't farm that lane. And they'll just play the map such that the other three heroes are playing the other lanes. So where does PL farm? I'm like, well, PL doesn't scale very well against Shaker Timber, and he's not going to have a good start, and Beastmaster's not going to have a good start, and boom, they lost. Like, that's what I thought. This is how I look at these drafts. And I thought the weight was heavily on Armel's shoulders, and my overall analysis was thinking if Armel snowballs this game, TNC could win. But if he gets, like, Blink Echoed twice, he's just going to lose the game. Like, he's going to lose momentum, and they're going to lose the game. And what ends up happening is Vici, like, smoke ganks Armel twice. And the game's just, like, super easy from there. And Ori, like, dies once, I think, to a 4-man gank at 6 minutes into the game, and then just never dies again.
You know, I like to take teams on the credit of their draft, the credit of their play, but is the jinx real here, BSJ?
I feel like I'm playing devil's advocate today, because every time I watch the drafts and I see what the panel predicts, I kind of just think
Swing
the
the other way?
opposite. I think the opposite. That's what I was looking at this draft. I feel that this Timbersaw is going to be a serious thorn in TNC's side this game. I am concerned that if the Morphling gets off to a decent start, and the Timbersaw doesn't feed like he did last game on Storm Spirit. You know, we saw him get off to a really good start. He's really unkillable this game until maybe a Spirit Vessel.
And put TNC down. PL's already DC'd from the game. The bottom lane of Rax will be taken.
Would you say he got slammed out of the game?
So we go to game 3, Vici versus TNC. Once again, not really looking too much at the first round bans unless something makes a lot more sense later on. That was a support Veno, by the way, last game. So first pick Tree and Avenger Batten. So let's see how this plays out. None of this really says too much to me so far. So a lot of saves, but a lot of lack of aggression. So I think to myself, I do want to pick some mobile core that is overall decent against these heroes in lane, but also that just doesn't die to getting ran at. A Batten's really only way of threatening you is running at you, so Morphling does fit that bill. You also have a melee support. People were picking a lot of Morphling, so it seems like people were prioritizing him very highly as a core. So I would have been fine with a PL or a Slark here. Like, I really would have been fine with any hero that lanes well against a Batten and is elusive. I would have been fine with anything that fits that description, but just be prepared to have bans that enable it. The problem with this Morphling, once again, is you banned out Omni Knight, a hero that's really bad versus Morphling. So these heroes that they're picking second, that are good against the heroes they originally banned, are a little confusing to me. I think if you want to optimize your drafting from what I saw in this tournament, that I really noticed, this is the first tournament I actually noticed this, that the teams that were winning the drafts, this pick was really good, or sorry, really bad against heroes they first round banned. And that just gave them like an extra, like, imagine having four bans in the second round. Imagine having 4 bans in the second round. That's what they were giving themselves, effectively, because 2 of the heroes that they would like to ban in the second round were already banned. Morphling, yeah, he's not good against ET, for sure, but good against Tiny, good against Omni. You just wasted like 2 bans that enable this hero. So I was starting to notice over the course of this tournament that I didn't like that very much whenever teams second picked a core from first pick that was good against what they banned in the first round. So they do ban PL. We talked about that last game. And then we also talked about Puck being pretty good against Morphling. So they do ban out the heroes that are good against Morphling. But is that enough? Let's find out. I think Vici has this like sick pick 30. I think this is the Slark pick. We'll see. I don't quite remember. So they banned Timbersaw because they might have some lane issues. Oh no, they go for the Disruptor. I think it was later on in the tournament they third picked the Slark. And we're going to talk about this round here. So this immediately gives you catch against the Morphling that you previously lacked. You didn't have catch to catch this guy. He can't get out of Glimpse. And once you glimpse him, you Static Storm on top of it. And you have reliable lockdown. Now you need some sort of damage to punish the Morphling. One of the best ways to punish tanky cores is heroes that just hit them a lot. Slark, OD, Ursa. I mean, Ursa's not even that great. Traditionally, like Monkey King, but he's very bad right now. I think Slark is the premier hero right now to punish tanky cores. First and foremost, Slark is really good right now, I think. He's going to get nerfed probably, mostly because of the Ag Scepter change, but also because Faceless Void got heavily nerfed, so he's not nearly as good anymore, a hard Slark counter. And also, Outworld Devourer saw no play at this tournament, so teams seem to put no value on Outworld Devourer. So even if Outworld Devourer ends up being good later on in this patch, in this specific tournament, for reference, nobody was picking that hero. And I think Outworld Devourer last patch was a lot of the reason why Slark saw less play than he would have otherwise. A lot of times, if a hero is really bad against like one of the most popular heroes in the patch, that can oftentimes make them really bad. I also think that this is why Timbersaw suddenly seems so powerful. He didn't really get buffed. The Halberd change benefited Timbersaw a lot, and he also benefits heavily from the removal of OD from being popular. So I think something that occurred to me and should really pay attention for you is sometimes the simplest explanation for why a hero becomes good without being buffed at all is because of the hero they were previously really bad against that was good is no longer considered good. So the reason why I like Slark so much against Morphling is even if Morphling survives the initial volley of harass or damage, you're just going to steal all of his stats, and a good Slark player is going to go Diffusal, and you're going to have full strength morph with no stats because he's stealing them all, and you're going to have no mana. So you might as well be dead on Morphling. Like, that's how I look at it. And now with the Ags, you can actually kill Morphling in 2 pounces. The first pounce, you burn all of his mana. The second pounce, you kill him. So the Slark versus Morphling matchup, as of today, is very good for Slark. Mainly because of the Ags change, making it just that much better. And they also have no way to reliably kill Slark. No instant disables. Nothing he can't Dark Pact off. So yes, they go for Lesh. Nice damage, mid-game damage against the Slark. Like, that's a traditional counter because all of your damage goes through Slark's ultimate. Your Diabolic Edict, your stun, your ult, all hits him during his ult. But that's only damage. They still have not a single instant disable for Slark. The problem is they fourth picked this hero. And the reason what made it so good, on top of every other reason I already said, is that you had no instant disables, reliable way of killing Slark. And their 2 last picks didn't give them a reliable way to kill Slark. There is a very clear-cut path to killing this Morphling. You glimpse him, he gets static stormed, he gets pounced, he dies. Please, paint me a picture, other than Slark pouncing into the opponent team, of how Slark dies in this game. I can't think of one. And he has a save. And he has sustain. The only issue that Slark faces against Leshrac is Leshrak's AoE damage kills the Slark before the Slark threatens the Lesh. But he also has sustain and AoE aura building from the Abaddon. So all of these reasons make Slark even better against Lesh. And even though on some games Lesh is very good against Slark, in this particular game, it doesn't address the problems that they had with Slark. If they had an instant disable to threaten the Slark and then gave themselves damage from the Lesh to follow it up, I would be much more content with this Lesh pick. But because of everything I just said, this Lesh pick doesn't do enough. And Grimstroke also doesn't answer their issue. I really don't understand this random-ass Grimstroke pick. They have really no synergy other than Adaptive Strike and Leshrac Lightning. What else synergizes with Grim? Very underwhelming pick. Meanwhile, even though Viper's not that great against Morphling, we summarized that Morphling's been hard countered. Morphling, or not hard countered, but he's been dealt with. These 2 heroes did an ample job of dealing with Morph, so I don't think that this last hero has to deal with Morph. Just pick a lane counter to the Leshrac. All magic damage. Viper. That's good enough for me. Makes you have another problem to deal with. Not only do you have problems killing the Slark, but now if you want to kill Viper, you have to invest a lot of shit to kill this guy. And they have 2 saves. So on this game, I just thought map mobility-wise, Slark was going to control the map. Team fight-wise, yes, they have a lot of damage. Yes, they have a lot of AoE. But Vici has all the tools they need to save their proper cores, and they have all the necessary mobility to kite out the spells of TNC and pick and choose the fights they want. Pretty much everyone on TNC dies to Glimpse, while Slark dies to nothing. That's good enough for me to rule a team to win the draft, and Vici ends up winning this game.
We have something new. We have something different. We have a Leshrac being picked up against one of the most consistent heroes being picked and normally winning the mid lane, which is the Viper. How do we feel this is going? The panel was a little bit more split, so at least now you don't have to feel like you got to go against the Jinx.
I mean, this one's not nearly as predictable. Last time I said, what did the other 3 panelists say? Okay, pick the opposite, and that was easy. But now, I'm going to go with the Slark lineup. I think that this Viper is going to have a good game. I think as long as Slark has a decent start to his early game, he's pretty hard to lock down. They have really no instant disables to make sure that he doesn't get his abilities off. And I think the long fights are going to happen, and that just naturally favors heroes like Slark, who gets those Essence Shift charges.
The GG is out, and VG Gaming 2-1 the series, eliminating TNC. Revenge for the major final.
So, pulling up is the one game of the tournament I did predict wrong. So I'm going to give my argument the entire way for why I picked Secret to win this game. And then I'll talk briefly about why they lost. So, in this game I picked Secret to win the draft. Ignoring first round bans, very targeted to each team. Lone Druid especially against Team Secret. They go for the first pick, Tiny. I think Tiny's actually not that bad against Puck, even though Puck can phase shift the Avalanche now. I don't think that that's a particularly amazing hero versus Tiny. You're just not going to leave it as core anymore. And I also think, from what I saw about Tiny, it's actually kind of nice against Tree. Because if Tree tries to bully your safe laner, you can toss the Tree into your tower. So I actually like Tiny a bit versus Tree for that reason. Viper wasn't an amazing pick to me, but it's a nice lane counter to Puck. If they do put the Puck mid, like I've seen Vipers win a lot versus the Puck. I said it's good against Tree in the side lanes. And also just an overall very good hero that they can now protect with 2 bans. They've also banned 2 heroes that were very good against Viper. I thought Venge swapping Vipers in was really good. And Tusk, whenever Tusk snowballed himself and like 2 teammates on top of a Viper with a tag team, one of the few ways I saw Viper just kind of look like paper in the mid game. So I thought Tusk was one of the better supports against Viper. They banned out the Morphling. As I mentioned last game, Viper was not good against Morphling. They banned out the Morphling. They banned out the Terrorblade, 2 carries that are very good against Viper. So they, like, in my opinion, this Viper pick is not perfect, but it is enabled very well by the early round bans as well as what they now have. Bloodseeker, I would say, stands out to me because Tiny plus Bloodseeker is a very scary combo. And I also hate playing against Viper Bloodseeker because Viper, whoever's landing against Viper is pretty much always low. Like, always. They're always like half or less. So it enables Bloodseeker's landing stage a lot to play with like a Venomancer or a Viper on his team. I think specifically Venomancer, Viper are really powerful this patch. In my pubs, when I've picked Bloodseeker, I've had those heroes on my team, and I'm always a race car, and it makes my game much easier to play. So they go for Prophet. Neither of these two supports deal well with Prophet. I've played Tree against Nature's Prophet. It's not very good. You like do a lot of single target right click damage, but you don't deal with the trees at all. Neither does Shadow Demon. And if they made Puck a support, which they don't, obviously, but Puck also does not deal with Prophet in the laning stage. So I thought, oh, this Prophet's going to secure whatever safe laner they want for this game. I was like, oh, I'm feeling good for like Matu. Whatever carry he picks here is going to be secure. So yes, Razor. In the past, hard counter to Viper. But honestly, I don't think he's that great anymore. I think Viper in the old days, he had to deal damage to you with right clicks. And in the laning stage especially, if you linked him in lane, the Razor just won. But now the Viper's poison attack actually kills you in the early to mid game. And then eventually Viper builds a Hurricane Pike, and then you don't link him anymore. So I don't think that this is that hard of a counter to the Viper. I only think it's good against core Tiny. So I wasn't too impressed with this Razor pick. And I end up being pleasantly surprised by the way Eurus plays this Razor. It ends up being a carry Razor. And they just go for a mobile carry that they have no stuns other than Puck. Other than Puck's coil, none of these heroes, they have overgrowth, but once he has Manta, how do you actually kill this guy? The only way they kill Anti-Mage outside of his Manta, or once he gets his Manta, is to coil him. That's the only way. And they also have to have follow-up. So they have to have coil plus one of these heroes or two, that none of which are mobile. None of these heroes follow the Puck around and gank with her. And I don't think like Puck tree's enough. That's not damage. You need like Razor plus whatever this hero is coming last. So I thought with the Prophet being a good lane secure and them not having a way to deal with Anti-Mage once he gets Manta, I thought, Anti-Mage is going to get a good timing. He's going to have a good start, like 13 to 15 minute Battle Fury, sub 20 minute Manta, and then they're not going to be able to kill this guy. That's how I theory crafted this game going from here. They banned the Bat Rider, super good against Tree, as I mentioned earlier. It's also super good against side lane Razor, which is much more likely than mid Razor this game because of the Puck. They banned the Naga Siren because they do need like a hard wave clearing carry that they only have single target, kind of single target. So Naga was pretty good here. They already banned out the other two illusion heroes. I don't think PL was nearly as good this game, especially when they're going to pick Shaker last. I also think VPL might be a bit too slow. Naga's like hard to explain, but she starts clearing waves way faster than PL does. So even though Naga takes a bit longer to come online, PL starts clearing waves much later than Naga Siren does. So now I'm like, oh, they have initiation, they have catch, they have lane secure. And I'm like, okay, they picked Timbersaw. Yeah, like we saw what happened last game as Timbersaw that we saw at last pick. But this game they have Anti-Mage, so he's just going to get blown up. And they also have Viper to break the Timbersaw. And then they have lots of lockdowns so that the Anti-Mage and Viper can hit the Timbersaw, and he's going to get stuck in the Nether Toxin. So I was like, wow, this Timbersaw pick seems okay, but by no means do I think it's good. But what's ended up happening this game was the Timbersaw did get a good start against the Anti-Mage Furion. That lane did not harass the Timbersaw. Even though they can burn all of his mana, you're never actually bullying him out of lane. And what ends up happening this game, if you watch it, I don't want to cop out and say, like, I should have gotten this game right. But the way I predicted the game to go did happen. But then Seeker took a Roche fight that they got wiped. They got, like, 4-for-0 at Roche at 20 minutes. And all the momentum that Anti-Mage had was gone. And then the Puck plus Razor, the Razor built all damage, which I didn't think he would do, which ended up being really good. He built all damage on Razor, and eventually the Puck Razor was enough to kill the Anti-Mage, and the Anti-Mage couldn't fight anymore. And then Team Seeker was stuck playing this like split push cheeky game that they could not win. So I want to say that a lot of my draft predictions and anyone that is predicting, you're thinking about how the game should go. This, in my opinion, was a pretty close draft. Like some drafts were just a blowout. I thought they were terrible. But this was a pretty close draft. But I did think the Anti-Mage was going to just get a good start and carry. But when it comes down to stuff like this, where it's like a momentum-based carry, like Anti-Mage, if you're in your own games, this matters too. These are the type of games where if you're really farmed, we saw in the group stage, there was one game with Alliance with Nico Baby playing Anti-Mage where he was absolutely free farmed, where he fed at like 23 minutes into the game, he fed 1 kill. Then the game looked unwinnable. In games where your hero needs to be ahead to be unkillable, but once you fall even or fall behind, you're like paper. Those type of games are the games where if you die once in a meaningful way, you're just going to lose the game. And there's other games where your hero naturally becomes very tanky, naturally becomes very hard to kill, like Timber saw here in this game. That is the case, where even if you die a couple times mid-game, as long as your team gets to the late game, your hero will scale well. And we saw that here. And I think that's something that's important to note in drafts, and something I overlooked at this game. And I thought Secret might have played it cleaner. Tier 1 team, they were playing with a stand-in, but overall, it wasn't a large draft margin for Secret by any means. And I did learn something by watching them lose this game. But for the most part, I really would chop it up to them feeding at Roche with 4 or 5 heroes.
VG, we thought maybe they'll push it long. Now we get a Timbersaw, a Puck, a Razor, a lot of sustain, a lot of great mid-game, but Team Secret, the panel were leaning their way. You're undefeated 5 for 5 for the on-camera games we've had so far here.
Yeah, so I flipped the coin. It landed heads. I had Secret for heads, so I'm going to go with Secret for this game. I had the privilege of watching it. Matuma Man just spam first pick anti-mage in pubs, and I don't think most people could pull that off, and somehow he always, even if he lost, had a really good game. And that, to me, on anti-mage, so many times you'll see the first pick anti-mage in your pub, and the guy will have a 25-minute Battle Fury. But I think Matuma Man is one of the best anti-mage players in the world. I think his starting items are really cool here with the Orb of Venom, with a couple pulled tangos from his teammates. I just think that this last pick, Timbersaw, yeah, it's nice in the laning stage, but you have the Viper break, you have a lot of disable, you have the anti-mage ultimate after he hits you enough times to burn all your mana. I like the way this game's going to play out for Secret, I think.
Getting away from that Rod of Atos of DY. Quick little Fisher. They want to burn the mana over off this Timbersaw as quick as they possibly can for the Dream Call. We go all over again! Oh, just call it! Mercy! Mercy, please! Team Secret will lose all 5 heroes, and they will definitely lose game 1 here against VG Gaming.
Okay, ignoring the first round bans as always. They do ban out the Puck. It was pretty annoying to deal with in the first game. Team Secret, where he did have massive impact in that game. First pick Venge into Tiny Viper. I said how I liked Venge against Tiny, so that immediately to me was like, what? I also like Venge against Viper, so I was like, what? And I also think Venge Tusk is like the most broken support duo if you give it in the right game. I think Venge Tusk is super good against everything but illusions. So everything but Terrorblade, PL, and Naga. I think Venge Tusk is really strong. But then again, I think that Morphling's really good against Terrorblades. So that removes one of the counters. I think they banned PL here. No, they banned... Oh, the Slark. Yeah, we did talk about how good Slark is against Morphling. And they ban out Brew because the Venge Brew combo that we talked about earlier. And I think they intend to pick an illusion hero. But once again, I said Viper's not very good against Morphling. The Tiny in the laning stage does not threaten to kill Morphling. If you pick a carry that dies to getting tossed under tower or tossed into the enemy team, it's just so hard to play. Last patch, you picked Void all the time. Like, Void was one of the top premier carries. Not only was it because that Void was actually really good, but also because Tiny was popular, and Void did not die to support Tiny. It seems so simple in the laning stage, but if you pick 3 cores that are fragile to a Tiny in your draft after they first round Tiny, that Tiny's gonna kill you. He's gonna roam to certain lanes. He's gonna pick and choose, and he's gonna kill you. But by picking a hero that's secure to not die to this, it allows the supports of Team Secret to play differently. They only have to play defensively around 1 or 2 lanes, and then also it just makes so they don't have to worry about that one guy. In terms of, like, if they want to go to the Morphings lane, it's because they think they need to bully or they want to get a kill. They don't have to think about saving. You do have to limit as a support and a captain the things you're worrying about from your course. Who are you protecting? Who are you playing around to make kills happen? You need to have, like, specific heroes for specific things. So I'm just talking about the value of picking a hero that doesn't die. Like, in patches where Clockwork's really good, your first round core should be something that can get out of cogs without help. Or you should have a Rubik support in your side lane with your offlaner. Like, say you first pick your offlaner, and the enemy responds with Clockwork. Your support should be Rubik to save your guy from Clockwork. Like, that's what you should do. That's an example. You can also pick supports like Wyvern that get out of the cogs herself, you know. These are the type of things where it's really nice if you can just immediately pick a hero that's pretty good for the game that also just doesn't die to whatever their ganking initiating hero is in the early to mid game, which Morphling's just so good against Tiny for that reason. But all carries have good matchups against certain supports, and should be considered whenever that support is popular. Tiny being very popular right now. AA, very common pick against Morphling. I'm surprised they banned it, though. Nobody was really picking AA. Maybe with the Tiny they were scared. Like, AA plus Tiny just kills the Morphling with 2 supports. The Venomancer, we talked about that being super good against Tiny. And I also think Venomancer could potentially be very good against whatever they pick here. I don't think it's particularly good with these heroes. So this pick blew my mind. If you guys watched like a year ago, people were like only picking Morphling against Omni. Why, BSJ? Well, Omni Knight's laning stage just isn't very good against Morphling. First off, you represent no kill threat on the Morphling. Second off, your laning stage, you don't do anything specific to Morphling. And then third off, he just turns into Omni Knight and Heavenly Graces himself for free. So, like, I was like, and also Morphling's like mostly magic damage. So why the hell did you pick Omni? I was so confused. I thought this was like the worst third pick I saw Vici make in the entire tournament. I was like, what the hell are they doing? And then they picked Venge Tusk. So they have a very natural way to kill Viper, as I talked about. I think this combo's super good. And it also gives them a save just in case. Snowball is very nice. And then I thought this Omni Knight pick was just terrible. I was like, what the hell is this Omni Knight pick? You just got yourself hard countered by the hero that was picked before you. That makes no sense. So immediately at this stage, I thought Team Secret was heavily favored in this draft. Then they picked Troll Warlord, who synergizes well with Omni. Don't get me wrong. But who the hell is he killing? Snowballs to save himself, swaps to save teammates, buys E-Blade, doesn't die to Troll. Please tell me who this guy's killing during Omni Knight Repill. Or Heavenly Grace. I was like, okay, Heavenly Grace is only good if the guy that's getting Heavenly Grace is a threat. Like, you just kite this guy during his ult. You force him to ult because you have a lot of poke damage, especially with the Morphling, and then you just kite it. And I was like, why? Timbersaw, very good pick here. 2 strength heroes. From the last game I saw, I overestimated Timbersaw against Viper. Like, I thought Viper was really good against Timber, and it proved to not be the case. I was wrong about that matchup. Not nearly as bad as you'd think it would be, as long as the Timbersaw is not laning against Viper. It's absolutely fine as the game goes late. And none of these heroes kill Timber, period. So I was like, wow, can't kill this guy. 2 saves, can't kill this guy. This is a similar formula to what we saw earlier. Ban Razor, obviously very good against Omni Knight plus the Troll Warlord. They banned Batrider because of the lane issues that we talked about with Batrider representing. Batrider was a hero that got banned in pretty much every game it would have been good. So we never saw it picked. It was probably really high ban rate, really low pick rate, because the only games it was ever good, it got banned. So what I did not see in this game about Windranger, that I saw later just to inform you, was that Windranger builds Maelstrom MKB. What a crazy concept to pick a hero whose main source of right-click damage is magical against Omni Knight. Also, MKB now goes through BKB. And Windranger kites the Troll Warlord ultimate. So please tell me, your 4th pick carry, who's supposed to be carrying the game with the help of Omni, who's this guy supposed to fucking hit? Please tell me, who does he hit? Who does he kill? Venge? Tusk? Like, who does he kill? Nobody. Like, he just doesn't kill anybody on the side of Team Secret. And I didn't notice how good Windranger was against Omni Knight in terms of the MKB plus Maelstrom. Also, pretty decent laner against Viper because when he stacks up the poison attacks on you, you can win run. So I was surprised. I didn't realize how good of a pick this was when I saw it. I actually underestimated how good this was. I thought it was mainly good for the laning stage as well as the defensive nature of like being able to kite the Troll Warlord. But it proved to be really good against the Omni Knight because even through Guardian Angel, they were able to kill people with the Windranger Focus Fire. Also synergizes well with Venge because of the extra range. And they go for this ET, last pick support that, yeah, it's nice against Morphling, great. Timbersaw owns the fuck out of ET. ET only removes base armor. Timbersaw, all of his armor is from reactive, which is bonus. Doesn't kill Windranger. She can easily dodge the Centaur or the ET stomp. Tusk can snowball dodge it. Venge, like, isn't going to get hit by it. The last pick usually has to be like, wow, gotcha. Like I said with that Timbersaw pick a few drafts ago. This is a last pick support that doesn't change the status quo of this draft. I talked about all the reasons why I like Team Secret's draft going up until this pick, and this just doesn't change anything. So for me, that's enough validation for me to not like Vici's draft. Secret did look a bit sloppy this game, but they do end up winning it.
You know, it's really nice of Shiva to say, like, to get the answers from both of us, but really, BSJ, I want the answer from you. This looks like a fun, quirky lineup here from Team Secret. We're bringing out the Windranger, and it feels like they got a lot of counters to VG Gaming.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this last pick, ET. I think it's really good against the Morph, but if you're going to counter something that is first pick, why couldn't you have picked it earlier? And they picked the Omni into Morphling, which generally I think in the carry matchup, you want to pick the Morphling into Omni. The laning stage goes really well for you, and you also can just get your own Heavenly Grace. You turn into the Omni, Heavenly Grace yourself, turn back into Morphling, and you basically have everything about Omni without having to expend it on a hero. But I underestimated VG in game 1, so I definitely am ready for them to put up a fight that I'm not expecting in this game.
Doesn't exist anymore. I don't think VG's chances will live with it unless you can get Slamuris through this.
They already just called the GG.
They did.
Yeah, that might have been a bit preemptive. They forced some buybacks. They gave themselves a win condition, but Viper didn't even look like a hero in that last fight. He evaporated.
Okay. This ban was pretty funny to me. First pick Doom, no surprises here. I liked the Tusk because Tusk immediately threatens Doom. He's one of the few heroes that can kill Doom. But I also thought a lot of Tusk's strength this tournament was Venge. Kind of similar to Brewmaster. If there was no Venge in the game, I thought Brewmaster went down in value. I think similarly of Tusk. So I was a bit like, what? And then they picked SF. And SF just gets doomed. And I was like, what? Why? Why did you first round SF into Doom? That actually made no sense to me. I was so confused. This was like the weirdest pick of the entire series this time around. I was like, please explain to me. It's like if SF was super good against this first hero, I could maybe get behind it. But you first rounded SF. This reminded me of Team Secret at TI5 when they were all wearing sunglasses and they first rounded Anti-Mage SF and just got dumpstered into the lower bracket. This is what this reminded me of. I was like, is this just cockiness or what? Are you like disrespecting Vici? This team got 4th at TI. Okay, so we have Wyvern. Very good against the physical damage that's already being represented here. We also talked about the synergy between Wyvern and Doom already earlier. So this already coming into play here. Good for your team. Good against the physical damage that they're representing. Minus armor strat from the SF as well as the physical damage from Tusk. I think Tree Tusk would be a scary lane combo. Razor's really good. Actually, I think they just like Razor on Vici. I don't necessarily think that's particularly good against these heroes. Drow, also a weird ban to me because you have Wyvern who's traditionally very good against Drow. But I guess it goes well with SF. You also have a save, so it seems okay. I don't think that's a great ban either. AA, very odd ban to me again. Let's see what they pick. Maybe Morphling. Oh, they go Veno. I was like, why are they banning AA? This was a very strange one to me as well. So you pick Veno. I actually like Wyvern a lot versus Veno. I've noticed that as Veno, it's very annoying when the enemy team has innate heal. You only negate health regen. You don't negate heal. So I found a Cold Embrace to be very good against Veno. So I don't not pick Veno into Wyvern, but it has to be like a really good Veno game for me to be like, nice. I also think Doom's decent against Veno in lane because even though he does have the health regen negation, it's only 15% level 1 now, and by the time it's like max level of 30%, he has like 18 health regen from Doom, or from Devour. So he's still sitting at like 12 health regen, which is actually pretty good. He also builds Pipe. He has decent movement speed for walking at you. I don't think Doom in any way is particularly bad against Veno. So this pick was like, okay. Now they pick Puck, who is very good against all three of these heroes. Yeah, you might not have the best lane matchup against SF, but no stuns that kill you. Now you have to address this Puck. Timeout, rewind. Now you have to address this Puck. Oh, thought there was somebody listening in. So, why? We watched the game so far. People have been banning Puck to protect Morphling. Like, they literally they pick Morphling first round, and then they ban Puck. Like, this isn't just me thinking this. These are the teams we've been watching that are banning Puck when they pick Morph. So I'm like, first off, you have to address the Puck because you don't have anything that's good against it, and then you pick something hard counter by it? What? I was so confused. I was so confused here. I thought this was like the equivalent of the Omni Knight pick last game. I'm like, what are these teams doing? These teams are way better than me. What are they doing? What am I missing? Some of these draft picks are so bad. We saw Slark against Morphling earlier in the tournament. Very strong. I know the heroes are gone now because I did that rewind stupid shenanigans, but no stuns. Tusk, no instant disables. Tusk used to be decent against Slark because of the sigil, scouting him in the trees, but not really anymore. And also, you can't snowball during leash. Shadow Fiend, no stun against Slark. Yeah, you have fear, but it's like not instant. Venomancer, no stuns. Morphling, like good matchup for Slark. Very good Slark game. You have this Morphling pick where I'm lulling, and then you have this pick on Slark where I'm hog champing. So far I'm really liking Vici's draft. So I'm like, now all Team Secret has to do in their last pick is find a way to kill Slark and kill Puck. That's all they have to do. Just pick an offlaner that's going to win the lane, kill Slark, and kill Puck. You got this. Another instant disable that enables Doom. Also, like Rubik plus a lot of these heroes can kill the Morphling, so it makes them have to play very scared. I also think Rubik's one of the best supports in the game versus Venomancer. When you steal his wards, you get Poison Sting, whatever level he currently has. So if you, like, a lot of the power of Venomancer is that he places wards in the lane and pushes it, and really no single hero in the game can counteract that push power, but Rubik can from the support role. So Rubik not only steals his abilities in team fights for damage, but he's also really good at map movements for countering Veno. I think he's really hard counter to Veno. And Centaur doesn't stun Puck instantly and doesn't stun Slark. Doesn't lane well versus Slark. And yeah, it's good against Doom, but they already have another instant disable. They have leash they have Puck coil to prevent you from running. They have Slark leash to prevent you from running. They have Wyvern curse to prevent you from running.
Is the Centaur enough?
This for me might be the worst draft I've seen from Secret in a while. I'm also ready to be blown away by what they do with it. By no means am I going to count out a team like Secret. They do pull out some wonky strats sometimes, but for me, I think they just have counters across the board on Vici for what Secret's trying to do. Rubik super good against the Veno. You steal his Plague Wards, they get the Poison Sting. You have the Puck coil for the Centaur ultimate disengage. Yeah, they picked the Centaur, I think, because of the Doom. When you doom somebody, you just use your Centaur ultimate to save them.
Yeah.
But no real reliable lockdown for the Slark. No instant disables that he can't just pack off.
TYW, tribute to Yapsor, who's not here for
GG.
Team Secret, and GG comes out not even 19 minutes, 18 minutes and 39 seconds will be on the clock as this game 3 comes to an end. And VG Gaming eliminate Team Secret for the One Esports World Pro Invitationals here in Singapore.
So this tournament became easier and easier to predict. It felt like Vici had the upper hand in almost every draft I watched. It made it easy to just say, yeah, I think Vici's going to win. I was talking about it in the loser bracket semifinals, or loser bracket finals when I was casting it. I was just like, wow, it really feels like Vici Gaming knows what they're doing this tournament. And as a person who watches the entire tournament, I think the really cool part about it is that you see the minute changes that teams make to their drafts, and also the way they directly respond to specific teams. I think all teams have like favorite meta heroes. Like, yeah, there's like 5 or 10 meta heroes that are super popular, but I think every team has like 3 or 4 of them that they heavily favor, and they really prioritize. And I think Vici Gaming did a really good job this tournament of nitpicking what meta heroes each team loved and just countering the shit out of them. I think that they were really good at this. Like Morphling last series, you saw Vici Gaming was more than prepared for. You know, like the Tiny, they were more than prepared for. Like, it was just very obvious that Vici Gaming had an idea of what they wanted to do to counter the meta heroes that each team prioritized. And if they don't know how to counter it in terms of the Magnus for the Alliance, they just banned it out. So going through this draft, in this series, I thought Vici Gaming really won side of these drafts. So yeah, what I had seen up until this point was Wyvern was the hardest counter to Puck. I had seen it, I believe, in a few games I hadn't casted, and I want to talk about why Wyvern's so good against Puck. Wyvern +1 kills Puck, period. You buy a Lincolns on Puck, okay, fine. Like, at what stage in the game do you have a Lincolns, right? Imagine trying to play fights as Puck when the opponent has 1,000 cast range instant disable. That could even clip you in an AoE. Like, it doesn't have to be on you. It could be on one of your teammates near you. But it's 1,000 range instant disable where if they have any follow-up, you're just going to die. Like, yeah, you don't normally die to the curse, but you'll die to anything else. And they already had the Doom. So in this moment, I wanted to say in these other games where I said they have to address the Puck, where I said that about Secret last series, Vici Gaming has already addressed the Puck. Like, this Puck will die to Winter's Curse plus Doom. Will die. And you can afford to blow 2 abilities like that onto a Puck. Also, so offensively, it counters the Puck. Defensively, what people were doing this game, or this tournament on Puck, the build became Ag Scepter and a Desolator. People were going the phase shift attack and the 90 damage talent. So Puck was more a representation of physical damage. And what was happening over the course of the game, if you were a core player, was you would get Ags coiled, and you're like, what do I do for the next 8 seconds? The Pucks also were taking Dream Coil Rapid Fire at level 25. So what do I do when I get coiled? The coil duration's 8 seconds, and the coil snap duration's 4.5. I'm literally just going to sit there and take it. Well, Wyvern's so nice because cores build status resistance, so at that stage in the game, the coil's lasting maybe 6 seconds, and the Wyvern just cold embraces them. And most of Puck's damage is physical, as opposed to prior patches where it's magical. So Wyvern was a super hard counter to Puck in terms of physical damage, because the way that Puck scales this patch was by coiling you and killing you in the coil. And Wyvern's Cold Embrace, which is like a 15-second, 4-second duration spell, 15-second cooldown, 4-second duration spell, hard counters your ultimate. So I thought this was like the perfect pick that Vici was prioritizing against the Wyvern. This might have even been the first game they whipped it out. Ban the Brew, because Alliance was really favoring that. It's also pretty good against Doom, because you ult before you enter the fight, and then you throw the Doom up in the air. They ban the Naga Siren, because it's like nice team fight setup for them. They ban the Drow. I don't really know why they ban Drow, to be honest, because they have Wyvern. But they do ban the Slark, which is nice against the Morphling, obviously. But, like, Morphling's the same as Puck, man. You just need some clear-cut way of killing this guy. And I hate to say it, but Wyvern Doom, they kill this guy. Like, you should just pick, like, Razor. Or something that runs in and doesn't mind having no abilities to press. Like, Medusa, Razor. You know, something that fits the description of, if I push R and, like, one other button, I've already done all my abilities. Or you could pick an Illusion hero that doesn't just get doomed reliably. What's stopping Morphling from just getting doomed? And it's like, you may say, BSJ, every hero gets doomed. But no, not every hero is easy to doom. And not every hero is completely useless when it's doomed. Morphling is the same shit. So it really confuses me. Yeah, you're decent against the Cold Embrace. Yeah, you're decent because you can morph into Wyvern and, you know, get really long-range attacks. But this pick is by no means countering these two heroes. You die to the same stuff. So what do? More instant disable. It's like the perfect Rubik pick here. Like, not only do you have these like trump cards where in team fights, if you want to single a guy out, you're going to kill them. So the only way I can reliably think Alliance is going to have a good game is if both of these cores are very farmed, you Wyvern's Curse and Doom one of them, and the other one kills you all. That's like the only way I can imagine this going for Alliance in a positive way. Then they pick Crystal Maiden, a super weak laner that offers nothing in particular. Like, really nothing impressive about Crystal Maiden. I was like, yeah, it does what Crystal Maiden does, but it isn't particularly good against any of these heroes. It doesn't save the Morphling or the Puck. It doesn't protect them. Like, once they get BKBs, they're literally unkillable on the side of Vici. That doesn't solve that problem either. And then they just pick Bloodseeker. Bloodseeker is amazing follow-up to Wyvern. I also thought Bloodseeker was really bad against Morphling. I thought any hero that could really get away from Rupture was good against Bloodseeker, because I was like, yeah, he ruptures you and then you wave for him. But what I noticed about Morphling in this game, that I learned this game, so I'm going to talk to you about, even though I thought Vici Gaming won the draft, what I learned about Bloodseeker against Morphling is, in the laning stage, Morphlings try to skimp out on regen because they can do the whole morph down to 0 health and then come back up. But it prevents you from doing that. It's kind of like Huskar. Like, Morphling likes to sit below half health for almost the entire laning stage. That's what he likes to do. Otherwise, he has to invest a lot of money into tangos and salves to make sure he doesn't do that. So, Bloodseeker is going to always be fast. Like, always. And that ends up happening in the laning stage. And then Bloodseeker is actually put mid. This is a mid Bloodseeker against the Puck. And then he just shits on Limp mid. I think Limp overextended once, but the Bloodseeker just free-farmed and ran through this game. Like, this Bloodseeker carried the hell out of this game. It's also super good follow-up to the Wyvern Curse. You get like a 3-man curse, and then you follow up with the AoE Silence for 6 seconds. Usually a very strong follow-up to the Wyvern Curse. So, a lot of reasons why this pick was good, but it was even better than I originally thought it was. Like, I was like, oh, I think it's a good pick, but not so great against Morph. And then I watched, I was like, wow, that was a really good pick versus Morph. They banned the DK. Little do they know it's just going to be a Bloodseeker mid. And once I realized, like, what was happening in the mid lane, Gyrocopter, not so great against Morphling, not so great against Puck, but honestly, they had all the counters they needed, and Gyrocopter was just, like, pretty good for their lineup. It just gave them a lot of AoE team fight. They didn't really have much AoE team fight. It gave them a lot of mid-game damage. It gave them just the trump card, I think, in the team fights. Like, yeah, now you have Wyvern, Gyro, Rubik team fight. Bloodseeker's not bad at all. And they really had no reliable way of killing Gyrocopter super early on. And like I said, once he gets BKB, he's invincible. That's what I said during this draft, right? Like, if once you get BKB, what do these 4 heroes do to you? So even though Gyro's like kind of squishy, he doesn't look like the perfect Gyro game because they can morph into you. They can like dodge your rocket with Puck. Once he gets BKB, he's clear to go. And all he needs to be able to do is help his team fight. And then they last pick Clockwork. And I could give this merit by saying you're against 3 cores that die to Cogs. But you're also against 2 supports that don't die to Cogs. And you're also against 1 support that saves his entire team from Cogs in the form of the Rubik. You're also picking a hero that buys Blade Mail. And if anybody read the patch notes, Blade Mail does not go through BKB anymore. Yeah, you have a BKB piercing disable from Hook, but that doesn't address BKB being nearly invulnerability this game. And so, like I said, when I have a status quo going into the last pick of a team having the advantage in the draft, and the last pick doesn't change that for me, I always will pick the team previously, in my opinion, that was ahead of the status quo. So I thought, yeah, they were getting a little cute with this last pick clock, but like, what the hell? I mean, it just wasn't that powerful, and they ended up getting relatively raffle stomped here, 36-9.
I think the Alliance has the chaos factor. Like, if this is kind of a scrambling game where both teams are taking small skirmishes, but I haven't really seen that much this patch. I think if both heroes run into each other, or both teams run into each other, and everyone on Vici pushes R, they're gonna win. So I'll go for Vici.
All right, solid strat. VG Gaming.
Get it
GG.
without any sort of contest, and there it is. Alliance have had enough. GG is called, and VG Gaming take game 1.
Okay, so in this game coming up, I think these are pretty good bans to set up the Mag. Mag loses mid decently hard at TA, as we've seen, and then Wyvern is like counter initiation to the ult. So I think that sets up a first pick Mag really well. But then Puck Trian is just really good against any hero that follows up RP. You have Overgrowth, forcing them to Manta or BKB, and then you also have Coil. And a really hard hero to RP. They immediately go for the Silence. Like, I almost think this is a disrespect pick. You think this is going to be good enough to kill the Puck? Like, what do you think? This Puck's trash? Like, you think he's going to get A-Toast? Like, you think he's not going to buy a Yules? Or, like, you think he's going to die to a Skywrath? Like, no instant cast spells. Like, yeah, you could buy Blink or Yules and you don't die to Skywrath because he has to silence you first. None of his damage instances are instantaneous. So, by no means does this address the Puck. By no means do I think this is good in lane against trees. 0 armor against Treant Protector. Treant almost always represents a tri-lane threat, which Skywrath Mage is not good against. Just a very odd pick. And whenever I see an odd pick, like that's not a meta hero, I have to be like, that's the perfect game. Almost like the way they played Medusa on VP earlier on the tournament. I was like, wow, that actually ended up being a really good Medusa game, even though it got countered. Skywrath Mage, nah, dude, it's just not that great. Bat Rider, ban always against Tree. We've noticed that a lot. Naga Siren's really hard to RP because obviously illusions, but also just she scouts out a lot, gives the vision for the team, also just picks on heroes like Skywrath Mage because of the whole 0 armor, no illusion clear thing. Omni Knight, Guardian Angel, another counter initiation similar to the Wyvern for the RP. Also helps against the Skywrath Mage for obvious reasons in terms of the, the save from Heavenly Grace and such. And they ban, what do they ban next? Vici always spends a lot of time on this ban. Because like I said, this ban's really important for preventing yourself from losing the draft in this pick. So I like this Bloodseeker ban a lot. We saw them pick it against the Puck mid, but then we also have seen Bloodseeker be really popular this tournament with heroes like Magnus, Venge, Tiny, heroes with innate displacement on Rupture. Like Skewer plus Rupture is just so much damage, and you have to BKB and just sit there. That's like the only counter, and then you're against Mag, so it's like BKB is really not that great. So I really like banning Bloodseeker. I thought this was a really good ban. Also because they have Skywrath Mage, so he's going to be harassing a lot in the laning stage. People are going to be low. And most notably, I think Bloodseeker was really underrated in the group stages tournament. I thought going into this tournament, Bloodseeker was going to be a good hero. I felt really powerful when I picked Bloodseeker. Sorry, guys. And when I was picking him in pubs. And so as the course of the tournament went on, I was not too surprised that people started picking Bloodseeker. I did think this hero was strong, and if he doesn't get nerfed, he's going to be broken. That's like my prediction going into the major. If there's a patch, damn it, monkeys! If there's a patch, then he's going to be broken. If he does not get nerfed. Okay. Almost done, man. Almost done, monkeys. Almost done. I'm finishing this video, guys. I'm sorry. I'll play next game. Like I'll be done in like 30 minutes. So, if he invites me again, then I will just have to talk through this invite. So, as you see here, there's a Slark pick right here. And this was the third pick Slark that I was really impressed with. It doesn't really die to the Skywrath Mage. It's almost certainly going to be secured its lane because it's against, or it has a Treant protector on its team. And it's a really hard hero for Magnus to RP. On top of the fact that Magnus, who wants to buy Ags as like his sole source of survivability, is now against a Puck, which is a leash, Tree, which is a root, and Slark, which is a leash. So he's going to have a really hard time ever buying an Ags on Mag. And we'll just kind of die to the Slark. So we do have to see this next pick and then let Monkeys invite us again. Disruptor. Yes, it's supposed to be a way to deal with Slark, but they already have a nice save lined up for Slark. So he's got a lot of protection, living armor, a Batten, healing him up. And by no means do they have some reliable way of killing him. Once he buys BKB, he still lives. Yes, they have RP, but they don't have damage. And this Beastmaster pick was about as bad as the ones I talked about earlier on in the tournament. You're picking Beastmaster into a Slark, one of the hardest heroes to roar in the entire game. Puck, who you're never going to roar. And against Nabat, and a hero that saves everyone you do roar, and a hero that doesn't get roared because he just pushes R. So, basically, game-losing Beastmaster pick if you weren't already losing. I thought this pick on first pick always has to be super powerful. I talked about this multiple times. And now you're just picking Beastmaster into 4 counters. For me, that this was the seal. Like, they wanted to pick a combination with Skywrath Mage, like low cooldown combination that helps you kill people. But the fact is, this hero doesn't kill these heroes. So it's like you're going for this combo that's not going to work. Like, there's just no way it works. What did they ban out last? Bloodseeker was also a really good ban because you have Slark on your third pick. Void was a good ban because Nico Baby special, and it's also good against Slark. I don't think it's like a great pick here by any means, but it goes well with the Skywrath Mage. I would have been happy with a Void pick right here. I would have been happy with that. I would have been okay with that because, yeah, it's not perfect against Puck, but you can just go Manta Diffusal against Tree Slark, and you have Chrono, and you synergize well with Skywrath. And then they go for Ursa. And I'm just thinking, if they don't immediately burst this Slark or Puck and like one disable, they don't win the fight based on the heroes they have. And they're against an Abat and no instant disables against Slark. So yeah, they have ways to catch this Slark, but I thought to myself, once Slark has BKB, you're just not killing him. And we've seen Timbersaw be an incredibly potent pick when his other cores are hard to kill. Timbersaw doesn't protect his teammates, but he just presents another threat that you have to kill. And so suddenly you have 3 heroes that you don't have a reliable way of killing. And even though you have Ursa against Timbersaw, if you watch this game out, it's really not that bad anymore. I was like, in this draft, I'm like, I think he's just going to go Yule's Halberd and then just not die to Ursa anymore. And that's exactly what he did. Yule saves him from Ursa, saves him from Skywrath Mage, buys him time in the Disruptor Static Storm. So Yule's is like an incredibly value item this game. And then Halberd just gives him everything he needs. If you look at the reworked Halberd, it's just very good on Timbersaw. The bonus health regen. So it just makes your living or your reactive armor just give you 20% more health regen. And then also just super good against Ursa, right? So I thought Vici was just heavily favored in this draft. I'll be honest with you. Slark going second item Ags instead of BKB almost made this game interesting. Eurus died like 3 times in the mid game because he didn't have a BKB. But then they were like, wait a minute. And they sat back, farmed his BKB on Slark, and then he was unkillable, and then they won the game.
Talk to me. Who is going to take the second game? And are we going to have a third game? I can tell you that Ori is indeed the one playing Timber. So that's some extra information for
Thank
you guys.
I will take it. I'm in. I'll take Vici.
All right. That's
Cap.
great. Cap, BSJ, you're next.
I'll go. I think Vici's got this. Timber, Slark, Puck. Don't think they have enough tools. I've been doubting the Timbersaws. I think he's going to go like Yule's Halberd or something, and the Ursa's just not going to kill him anymore.
Not going to believe in the Ursa, dog?
All right, Cap. Then I will ask you a different
Oh,
question.
the Halberd is so good. Ooh, I like that you pointed that out, BSJ. That really won me over.
GG is called, and VG Gaming take game 2, and with that, the entire series 2-0 for VG Gaming.
These games are rather one-sided by Vici, but I think it's important to understand why they're so one-sided. I don't think looking at a game and be like, that was one-sided, means that you shouldn't be able to learn it. So it's Vici versus Gambit, lower bracket finals. Similar first bans as always we've seen so far this tournament. Pretty much is all broken heroes here. They even banned the Wyvern because they want to pick Puck. Notice how the Wyvern and Puck ends up being a thing. We talked about Wyvern being the hardest counter to Puck. They see this Wyvern ban. They end up banning Puck themselves, knowing that that was really their most reliable, easy way to deal with the Puck. honestly. And I think this was why VG was like winning this tournament. They just constantly were dealing with the meta heroes. Like they picked that third pick Slark. It blocks so many heroes, and all the heroes that are good against Slark aren't very good. So you're either picking a bad hero or you're picking a good hero that's bad against Slark. So that's why I think they were just a step ahead of everybody in this meta. First pick tree, they go for this Naga Disruptor combo, and I'm immediately thinking, okay, Gambit, all you got to do is be able to force fights. Once you're able to force fights, you got this. Like that's what I'm thinking in the draft. They immediately go for TA. TA is like the most efficient mid laner in this patch. They've already banned out Viper. Doom's already banned another hero that's really good versus TA. They ban out Razor to win against it in the laning stage, and I think they ban out like Huskar or something. Venomancer, that's the other one. So this TA is incredibly protected. It counters what Gambit wants to be doing in the sense that Gambit wants to group up, force 5-on-5s. TA split pushes the map really fast, hyper mobile, really hard to catch with these heroes. Even if she gets glimpsed, like it's really hard to glimpse her because she'll blink away, so you have to be like pretty close to her originally. And then they pick another hero that's not an instant disable. So I look at this and go, they already can't force fights very well. Tree's an elusive hero that sits in the trees and pushes out waves with his leech or with his Nature's Grasp. TA is really hard for them to invade at all in the early game. All the lane counters to TA are banned out, so TA is going to have a good lane. What does Vici pick here? Omni Knight, look at that. So what amazed me about this was I saw later on in the game that even once Gambit got a good team fight, Omni Knight was positioned really well, and his teammates got static stormed out of the Naga sleep, and he just walked in and Guardian Angeled them, and they just lived. So they presented like a trump card that once they got far enough ahead, your combo's just not good anymore. Like you're just not going to be enough. So in my mind, I'm thinking, based on what I saw in this game, Gambit had to pick some way to kill the cores when they're Guardian Angeled. Maybe like an Invoker to purge. I can't really think of like a better way. Brewmaster to purge the Guardian Angel. I think they had to do one of those things. And I don't think Brewmaster is particularly good against these heroes in the first place. Maybe he's okay against Omni because you throw him up in the air and then kill his teammates. But when I look at this game, if I was Gambit looking back, I would have wanted to pick something that deals with Guardian Angel once they come out of Static Storm. Omni Knight was just really well positioned, always sitting in the back, making sure he didn't get Static Stormed with his teammates. And this pick, even though I thought it was decent at the time, made a lot more sense to me when they played it in the game. And this is something where you can watch games and be like, I don't quite understand why they picked this hero, and then watch it specifically from that hero's perspective and be like, wow, the Naga Disruptor combo just did nothing because they have an Omni. Boom. That was a really good pick. That's something I learned in this game specifically. And then this is the nice lull pick of the series, boys. And they lost the draft. Darkseer. So immediately I think to myself that they have to get this 5-man combo. And the only thing that I think prevents you from getting a 5-man team fight is lack of catch, which they don't have. And then, I mean, they have Disruptor, but it's like, that's it. And they don't have like immediate follow-up to the Disruptor. And you also need to be not at a disadvantage. Like, you need to be somewhat even. If the enemy team's ahead of you, they're just going to play the map better than you, and they're going to split push you, and they're going to out-farm you. And eventually, even if you have a wombo combo, they're just going to be ahead by 5,000, 10,000 gold and survive. That's like what I said at the start of this game. I was like, they're just going to eventually be far enough ahead to not care. This is a safe lane Lesh. It sets the tempo. It gives them an active tower pusher when Gambit has early damage problems. Who in the early game does damage, by the way? Who pairs with the Tusk to kill people in the early game? Is it the Naga? Is it the Darkseer? That's going to be level 1 at 3.5 minutes. Is it the Disruptor? Like, who's killing people pre-level 6 for Gambit? Who's beating this TA in lane? So I really like the Shadow Demon. Good against the Naga, you disrupt her illusions or her and get the illusions. You can save somebody who gets glimpsed. Even though they still get glimpsed, you buy 2.5 seconds. You can save somebody, or you can purge anybody who's surged by Darkseer. It's a consistent purge, so Surge is no longer an ability, and it sets up Leshrac to be active in the early game. It's a nice setup stun for Lesh. So what ends up happening in this game is Lesh has a good start. I'm like, Omni's not countered in lane because it's pretty good against Naga Siren, and TA's not countered because all of her counters have already been banned. So no matter what they pick in this last pick, it's not going to be good against TA. Like, it's going to be okay, but it's not going to crush it by any means. It's going to go even at best. And that's exactly what happens in this mid lane. It's like pretty even. And we saw earlier with the Storm Spirit, my biggest issue with Storm is when he has damage issues. So yes, it gives them like reach. It gives them the ability to choose when they can fight. But you're dealing with an Omni Knight damage mitigation. You're dealing with Tree damage mitigation. You're dealing with cores that are all going to have a good start. And you're dealing with a save from the Shadow Demon. And the rest of your lineup quite frankly, blows. Mainly the Darkseer. So, if you watch my game live here, I think this was a very accurate depiction of like how you deal with a team that has really good team fight. If they have lack of catch and really good team fight, this is exactly how you deal with it, draft thinking wise, like if you're picking a pub, but also like how you end the game properly. If you want to learn how to like deal with it in the draft, watch how they lane this game, watch how they play the mid game because they have damage issues. Even Storm has damage issues before like 15, 20 minutes. And then watch how they end this game. It's a really good way to learn how to beat a team with like a wombo combo 5-man. It's like really, really good game to learn this from. So yeah, I said Vici in this draft.
Gambit's pulling the classic. We lost to Darkseer Naga Disruptor the other day, and they're doing it themselves here. I just don't believe in Darkseer, man. As a carry player, I see Darkseer, I'm like, yes, I get to free farm for the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, but
this game is done. 25 minutes in. Gambit, they went for something cute, but the laning phase did not set it up.
Why not Ember? I actually suggested Ember to Toby off screen. I thought Ember was like a much better, reliable way to make use of the Ion Shell. It gave them like a mid-game active hero. Yeah, it gave them like a mid-game active hero. It gave them mid-game damage, synergy with the Ion Shell, and then also it gave them better low cooldown catch. Yeah, it's not a stun, but it's better reach than the Storm Spirit because you don't have to like put yourself in harm's way to get the reach. More notably, I just thought it enabled the Darkseer by giving his Ion Shell like a purpose. I feel like you don't really want to Ion Shell a Storm nearly as much as you do an Ember. And I also think Ember kills TA much better. But I didn't necessarily think that was a game-winning pick, but I did think it was much better to pick Ember than Storm there. Okay, but GPK, big Ember Spirit player, so obviously he thinks that hero is either bad or unplayable against Tree, one of the two, because of the root. So they do first pick Puck without banning Wyvern. I was like, they lost. I'm like, you just picked Puck into Vici without banning Wyvern. I was so confused. I'm telling you right now. I don't want to flame teams because I know these guys are better than me, man. I was so confused here. I was like, I'm casting this series, so like you can't hear me on camera. I'm like, Toby, they just picked Puck and then didn't ban Wyvern. Have they not watched the drafts? Like, are they not watching the same tournament that I'm watching? What am I missing? If you're asking why Wyvern's a Puck counter, I've already talked about it in depth earlier on in this video. Yeah, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Then they picked the Morph. Similar reasons that I think Wyvern's pretty decent against Morph. I talked about it earlier. As long as you have some sort of follow-up to the curse, I think Wyvern's pretty decent against Morph. I don't think this is a terrible Morph pick, but for some reason teams have been picking Puck Morph. I don't think I've seen it win it yet, the specific combo of Puck Morph. I do like these bans. We saw the Slark Bloodseeker being really highly prioritized against Morph, and Vici Gaming was the ones that were doing it, and they were winning with it. So I do like these two bans. They did have a clear plan. So I liked that they had a clear plan with this Morphling for what they wanted to do to enable it. But I've already said, like, I just don't get why you picked Puck and didn't ban Wyvern. Vici's been crushing this Puck hero with Wyvern all tournament. You don't have to. You can look at the 3 games they beat it with that you can to understand that. They banned Batrider. I like this Batrider ban because it's Vision against Night Stalker, and it's also just really good against these 3 heroes. Notice how Batrider's been banned so many times and not a single Batrider pick that I've already talked about in these drafts. Just a very good hero against what's good if you just got to be careful of not giving it to him. But it's like really hard to pick in pubs, right? Because you just get slarked. And you're like, oh, shit. And you just lose. But in competitive Dota where, they can ban specific heroes and you want to pick heroes that are weak against Bat, it is a highly prioritized ban that teams were very good at preventing getting like a really good Batrider pick. That's also why Timbersaw started getting first round ban. Teams just didn't want to worry about Timbersaw as the draft goes on. Vici won like 3 drafts off of a last pick or 4th pick Timbersaw. And I think they were just like, they didn't want to concern themselves with that. It's easy to get gotcha'd by a Timbersaw this patch, it seemed like. And that's why they did this in the first round. Even though you don't think they're going to pick it in the first round, it just prevents you from having to waste a ban on it later. If you don't have anything else better to ban. So I liked Night Stalker because it's an AoE silence against 2 heroes that just get crushed by an AoE silence. And it's also innate follow-up to the Wyvern Curse because you fly on top of them with your silence. Like, I know that sounds like kind of weird, but it is like an innate way to just counter or to follow up the curse. And then you pick a Baden. Let's be clear here, guys. You can't remove Avalanche. You can't remove Toss. You can't remove Curse. And you can't remove Night Stalker Silence. Please, Gambit. Please, explain the Abaddon pick. Please. Please. I don't understand. There's 3 heroes that have been picked into you. And it doesn't counter any of them. It's a save that doesn't save from anything that they're doing. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I was just so, yeah, it's for the color theme, the blue and purple. I could not understand what's going on here. Very weird pick to me. I think a lot of the drafts I saw were lost in the 3rd, 4th pick for one of the teams. Like, I saw these Beastmasters. I saw that 4th pick Morphling into the puck. I see this Abaddon pick and a Night Stalker Tiny Wyvern. I was like, what is going on? And then they pick damage. All they have is a bunch of beefy frontliners with the Tiny and the Night Stalker. They have vision for days. Wyvern's Q give vision. The Night Stalker's like the best vision hero in the entire game. They banned out the Bat Rider who gives vision. Even Venge is one of the better vision heroes right now with Wave of Terror. TA gives vision with traps. A lot of these vision heroes are very popular. They're all banned out, and then they pick the best vision hero in the game. So at this point, I'm thinking they're going to have really good vision advantage on Vici's side. And then guess what? In the other games we've seen Drow lose, it's because it felt like it was easier for the other team to force the fight than the Drow's team. But they have the vision advantage almost guaranteed. Drow's positioning should be really easy this game. And once she has good positioning, she should reliably be able to dish out the damage. And her damage against Morphling, as long as nobody's within range of her ultimate, it pierces all of his armor. So, very good Morphling counter if you're able to deal out the damage you need to deal. And I think with the lineup we've seen so far, you're going to be able to. Really no gap closers other than Puck, which isn't that great against these heroes. Like, imagine going on a Drow with these heroes behind the Drow or in front of the Drow. Like, you don't feel good about it on Puck and Morphling going on the Drow until you have, like, BKB Lincolns on the Morph or some shit. Like, you don't get cursed, and it's just weird, right? It's just a very good Drow pick, I think, this specific game. I was impressed particularly by this Drow. And you also can't get, like, PL'd. I think PL was, like, the best way to deal with Drow, and you pick this first-round Morph, so you're not getting PL'd. And guess what? They picked Beastmaster. I think it was for Vision. I think it was the reason for Vision. But you're not going to get the superior Vision. I'm sorry. You're just not. And you're against a Wyvern who's going to save whoever gets roared and is also really good against Beastmaster lineups because generally they do a lot of physical damage and they kill each other. So for me, it's like another Beastmaster pick. This one wasn't as bad as the others. I will say. It wasn't as bad as the others. But I just don't... It's not a, like, yay pick. It's not a change the game pick. I think this Abaddon pick was so bad that this Beastmaster pick couldn't possibly be good enough to fix it. I think the Puck into Wyvern and the Abaddon into the 3 heroes they picked it into were so bad that I genuinely don't think this pick could have been anything good enough to solve it. That's I don't want to shift focus on the Beastmaster pick because I think it was okay. But at this point, because the earlier picks were bad, I don't think I can say... I think I have to evaluate it as not good enough to make up for those picks. So wrapping up this draft, the Disruptor ban, really nice against heroes like Night Stalker that rely on running. It's like, yeah, I flamed Disruptor for not being much catch that last game, but they do have a way of forcing the fight after the Disruptor glimpses this game. The other game, it was just a Naga Siren Wombo combo and like no real kill combos early on, but now they have a bunch of like low cooldown AoE spells or like they have the Puck for AoE, they have the Beastmaster for combination with it. So they actually have heroes that can capitalize on the low cooldown glimpse and all that kind of stuff. And all these heroes kind of die to it too. So I like Disruptor a bit more this game. Medusa, on the other hand, is just really hard for this lineup to fight into. Goes well with the Drow. They already have the vision advantage. They have no real way of threatening the Medusa. It's like, who hits this Medusa? Like the Morphling? Not really. So I do like this ban. I think it would have been really hard to fight into Medusa in general with the lineup they currently have. And they picked the Willow. Let's go into clear cut how I feel about this Willow pick. Dies to a Blink Tiny. Dies to Night Stalker. Yeah, you have the Fear with the Coil. That's about what I see. The Fear with the Coil. Yeah, it's magic damage through the Cold Embrace. But you die to Drow's E. You literally just die to it. and you don't actually have really any setup. You have Coil. So, like, Willow's more of a follow-up hero to somebody else. I think more so as, like, a low cooldown. Like, if I'm threatened by Willow +1 as a carry player, Willow can be really scary. But in this game, yeah, you may say Drow's kind of fragile, but they're going to try lane for the Drow. Night Stalker's going to do whatever, because it's like, you don't really have the best lanes to shut him down. He's not going to have a good game, but he's not going to have a bad game. And then you just last pick this Kunkka hero, who capitalizes on the vision. X is another non-dispellable ability, so the only save that Gambit has is Abaddon. And I think to myself, I don't think Gambit can overcome the damage discrepancy, and I think Eurus is just going to shit out damage by virtue of having nobody be on top of him. He's just not going to get gone on. You have so much vision, you have so much front line. You're going to pick and choose the fight you want. And Willow is stunned by like every hero on Vici. I think Willow's really strong when her Dark Realm or Shadow Realm's like free, get out of jail free card. But you can probably die full to 0 to AoE spells. If you're X'd. Like if you get X'd on Willow, you're dead. And like that's just one hero. And also you have the cleave against the units of Beastmaster. The cleave against Puck in lane, she's 0 armor. So like this Kunkka pick to me makes a lot of sense. It's just a really nice pick. It's like a pseudo disruptor, right? Now the only problem with Night Stalker, he's similar to Doom. You ult and they run away from you. But now with a Kunkka, they're not running away from you. So that's like, yeah, it doesn't kill the Puck or the Morphling necessarily, but you have the Night Stalker, you have the Drow for that. And you think to yourself, BSJ, once they buy BKBs, they don't die to this Vici lineup. But Vici always is going to have the vision, and they don't have a natural way to kill this Drow. So both teams, if itemizing to live, one of them's naturally going to scale with damage, and the other one is not. And so I think that the Vici lineup just naturally, once they get to these BKBs and tanky items, they're just going to win. And I really like Ori's build this game on mid Kunkka. He goes like Drums, Pipe, Lotus, while his offlane Night Stalker goes Ag Scepter, BKB, Blink, or something. So like he lets his Night Stalker go like very greedy items and then builds like the teamfight aura items that most offlaners usually build. So I think Vici does like a really good job of understanding who's doing what. Like as a mid laner, knowing that your offlaner's not going to give you the teamfight that you need in terms of items, that he built it himself, knowing he could still like that he picked a hero that could do that. He didn't pick like a Queen of Pain. You know, I'm not saying Queen of Pain would have been good here, but like he didn't pick a hero that's never gonna build teamfight items. He purposely picked a hero that's going to allow the Night Stalker to build greedier items and become that Blink Nullifier Night Stalker as the game goes on. So overall, I think the way Vici played these games in this tournament was really good. They ended up 3-0ing EG in the finals, even though they started in the lowers bracket. The last like 3 or 4 series were just me saying, yeah, VG has the better draft and they're going to win for almost every single game. The one mistake I really thought they made in the entire tournament with the drafting was that third pick Omni Knight, and they lost that game.
The pressure is definitely on as VG Gaming one game up, and it feels like, at least the way the panel leans to the draft, is also the way of VG Gaming. Gambit, it seems difficult to execute. BSJ, you were leaning that way too. You're leaning the way of VG Gaming.
I have the same concerns for Gambit's lineup as I did the first game. I just think their laning stage is a bit fragile. As I said, F&G has to create space for his Morphling.
How do you do
5 position Abaddon? And we saw yesterday 3-3s, Beastmaster, 4th pick into heroes. I didn't really like it. And today I'm seeing the same thing. I'm thinking his laning stage might be rough as well. I think if Gambit can get off the ground, their lineup's much better than it was last game. And I don't think it's as bad.
The Puck and Morph can be something then, right?
But we saw the Wyvern just so good against Puck. The instant disable from the ultimate.
Spaceship and the GG is called. VG Gaming will 2-0 Gambit.
Just too much, man. There's just so much help. How do you kill them? You have a Rapier Daedalus Puck and they're not dying.
Maybe EG has an answer.
Overall, I think the main thing I want to communicate from this video, to wrap it up, is that during the tournament, I was able to predict pretty well who was going to win. And it's something you can practice and something you can do too, and it'll help you pick heroes in pubs. It'll help you understand what's going to happen in a pro game, and it'll help you appreciate the intricacies of Dota, I think. I think that's a big deal for even the casual viewer if they were to watch a video like this. You can really appreciate the intricacies of Dota and how little adjustments in the draft from Vici and how teams picking into counters, it's just not good enough to pick a good hero. They're just picking Puck, one of the most broken heroes in the game, into a team that's clearly proved they can deal with it, and you didn't ban the heroes that they've been dealing with it with, and you lose. Meanwhile, whenever Vici picks Puck, they win. So it's not like they've made Puck look bad. They just know when to win with Puck. And you can learn a lot about an individual hero, and more notably, since the meta is going to change sometime in the near future, you can learn a lot about how teams approach countering a hero. They understand what the hero's strengths are, they understand what it does in the mid to late game, they understand how it lanes, and they dissect it, like one part of the game at a time. And they make it hard for that hero to play the game. And even if that hero is really broken and ends up having a decent game, the point is if you give them Puck, they're going to crush you with it. And if you take Puck, they're going to make it look not so hot. I think that's really what I was impressed with Vici at this tournament. Thoroughly enjoyed casting this tournament, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I might be doing this more for tournaments in the future. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.